This world is abundant in mana, but unless you're an ancient dragon, you can't handle raw mana directly. That's why every mage needs a filter called a mana heart circle. It usually takes months of practice to create it, even for adults. But that's not the case with our boy Dale. When his elf teacher explains the process and advises him not to rush it, he has already done it. She is shocked when he shows that he really formed it. She just can't understand how this little 8-year-old boy, who only just started training, manages to form his circle after a few minutes. But forming a heart circle is only the first step. The hardest part is learning how to release the mana you've gathered. And that's where Dale shows he's a real prodigy. On his very first try, he casts an ice bolt so powerful that it crashes through a huge tree in an instant. It shocks his teacher to the core. If he's doing things like this with basic magic, what will he do when they start learning dark magic and necromancy? But before that, let's find out why Dale is such a genius. Hansung is the commander-in-chief of an Earth that was invaded by flesh-eating monsters. In the midst of war, a magical portal opened and dragged him to another world. The mages of this world hailed him as the otherworldly hero, someone who will save their empire from the Demon King. Hansung wanted to return home, but they tortured and enslaved him with a spell. He spent the next 10 years of his life slashing and killing for the sake of the empire, just so that he could one day attain his freedom. Finally, he defeated the Demon King. But the Empire never let him go even after his victory. They tasked him with one last mission to kill the Radiant Knight Sir Badal. Hansung was like a dog to the Empire's schemes, and could not defy their order because of the spell. In the end, he fought and killed Sir Badal. But in an unexpected turn of events, a blade thrust into Hansung's back. He had spent years of his life tortured to serve an empire that killed him at the end. Count Brandenburg treated the otherworldly hero as an expendable hunting dog. The hero met his tragic end, and vowed never to forget the humiliation he endured. That same night, his spirit transferred its way to another body. Lady Elena welcomed this child into their world. The boy's father was none other than the greatest necromancer on the continent, Duke Saxon. Before his death, Hansung had stolen a stone of reincarnation. It was the only way to free himself from the enslaving spell. But he never even expected to be born into nobility. Bro was ready to live an easy life of pleasure, just to plot the ultimate master plan to slaughter those who wronged him. Duke Saxon noticed the boy's strange behavior. The child didn't shed a single tear after it was born. The boy's father began wondering if this was a bad sign, but fear not, because the nanny came to the rescue with her ultimate technique, the ass claps of death. The same unrivaled hero suffered excruciating torture at the hands of a nanny. On top of that, the boy's mother decided it was her turn to give it a try, while Hansung begged them to stop. His mama raised her hand, but instead of beating his ass literally, she caressed it softly. It was the first time he felt a warm embrace soothing his skin. Hansung had only felt alone in this world until now, but this comforting touch brought him to tears. And so he began to cry in a way he never knew he could. Talk about the literal definition of making a grown-ass man cry. In the master bedroom, Dale's parents expressed their satisfaction at his growth. The 8-year-old made them proud, and has been studying relentlessly ever since he was 4. The boy's father understands Dale's interest in magic. His wife pulls his face, reminding Alan of their promise. The promise to never teach the young boy the ways of necromancy. She worriedly reminds him of their promise, while Alan assures her that he's already prepared a different gift for the boy's upcoming birthday. A knock on the door steals their attention. The maid suddenly pops right in, sharing a shocking revelation of Dale's condition. Hearing this, the parents sprint as fast they could to the study room. Our boy is currently trembling on his feet, covered in a mystical blue aura wrapping him. The boy calls out to his parents. Dale's mother scolds him and checks on his condition. Meanwhile, the boy's father is analytical in his judgment, and literally senses mana flowing in the air. Their child is only 8 years of age, and yet he is able to release a profound level of mana already. The same father suddenly exudes a damning, horrific sensation, looming over Dale as he questions if his son just exuded mana. Now our boy here knows he's about to get spanked to the moon and back if he doesn't make Papa happy. Even Dale didn't expect to release an absurd amount of mana, and he knew that if he failed to answer quickly, his Pops would beat his ass. Surprisingly though, Pops over here smiles and actually pats his head, feeling pride in his achievement. He finds it a real shame being unable to teach him necromancy on his own, a confession that our boy finds weird. Bro is disgustingly pissed off because not knowing necromancy would squander his plans for revenge. The boy's mother tells him to go rest while the maids clean up. As he's racing away, Alan and Elena share a moment of peace. The boy's father has now thought of the perfect gift for him. Let's jump right into the birthday banquet because parties are always fun. There are lots of people gathered here, nobles from all over the Noir Dukedom. They're curious when the tiny young master would show up. Some of them hadn't seen him in a while. Meanwhile, the man of the hour, or should I say the child of the hour, is currently chilling on the second floor. Expressing peak introvert energy, Dale finds it a real chore to meet all these people at the birthday event. He wonders if it's because of the fact that he was once treated like dog shit when he was a hero. Even now, being buttered up like some rich noble's son is a new thing to him. Recalling what happened the other day, Dale goes into the specifics of how his mana accidentally sprouted open. You see, he was actually reading records of his own past life as a hero. Despite the talent he currently possesses as the young master, it bothers him that none of it will come to fruition if his papa doesn't teach him necromancy. Dale began spying on his parents, wondering about methods to convince them, even entertaining the idea of requesting his direct tutelage. But that idea was totally reckless and he knew it. At last, the boy's mother Elena arrives with a gorgeous dress, congratulating her son. The young master curiously asks about the identity of the cloaked figure behind her. The person quickly unveils their hood and is introduced as the Elder of the Blue Magic Tower. This beautiful blue demon is also a master of the water attribute. Elena introduces Sephia as the boy's new teacher. Sephia also greets the young boy and intends to work with him to success. Meanwhile, Bro is having a real shock, unable to believe that he's personally being assigned a Tower Master as his teacher. This means that his newest focus will be put on learning magic, which isn't the greatest accomplishment since it's for defense specialization only. This shows him that Elena, his mother, really doesn't want her kid to go learn spooky dark necromancy magic to become another corny third-rate copy of Sung Jinwoo. Anyway, Sophia wants to have a private meeting with the boy, and the young master agrees to her request. They come outside in the field of snow, where the Blue Magic Tower Master reminds the kid that he'll only be learning water magic from now on. Interestingly, Sephia senses that the boy's heart lies elsewhere. She knows that he wants to learn something else. Her astute observation stuns him for a moment, while Sophia reasons that it's obvious for anyone to believe that Dale wants to pursue necromancy and dark magic as his focus. The problem being, the current Duke's state of marriage is a known issue throughout the Empire. You see, ever since the Duke had the hots for Elena and married her, she became afraid. She did not want her family to receive a scornful reputation, which meant that he couldn't pass on dark magic to their children. I don't know about you guys, but damn, this woman out here playing the controlling, overprotective tiger mom a bit too much. Even at their freaking wedding, she forced white as the color code of the wedding attire instead of black. Sophia forwards that, because of that promise, Dale's dream is a far cry from reality, and that he won't be able to learn dark magic. However, the enlightened Tower Master actually has a proposal. She is willing to convince the young master's mother as long as he follows her guidance. At this point, our boy finds himself surprised at Sophia's acceptance of necromancy and the dark arts. After all, she's an elf who upholds the laws of nature, and the act of resurrecting the dead is considered disgusting. The Blue Tower Master laughs, finding herself entertained with the boy's words. She then wondered what he would make of the priests that resurrect the dead back to life as well. She thinks that the idea of reincarnation or resurrection and necromancy is the same when you really think about it. From this conversation alone, Dale is able to configure just how wise his new teacher is. She had an open-minded perspective and might prove to be an excellent teacher because of it. Wrapping up the discussion, Sophia thinks it's time for their first lesson. She knows that Dale has already formed a small fragment of his mana circle, so his first goal from now on is to help expand it, allowing it to become a first circle. Dale is intrigued and believes that the approach aligns with his goals to learn spells. With Sophia's guidance, he places his hand over his heart, feeling an internal world open up inside of him. This world is rich and full of mana, but the problem is, only capable creatures like dragons can fully harness the true power of raw mana. For human beings, a filter is required. This is established as a mana heart circle. The idea is to gather fragments of the circle around one's heart, rearrange them and cycle them. This way, a proper circle is channeling a flow around the heart. Dale follows her guidance perfectly, achieving his objective. For the next step, she instructs him to rotate the mana around his heart. This part of the process takes at least a month, so she urges him not to feel discouraged. Here's the shocking bit. This man has done it in an instant. The 8-year-old's successful achievement absolutely baffles the Tower Master. The same kid who had just started training already achieved his first circle in the span of a few moments. From this revelation alone, it becomes crystal clear that our boy is a bona fide prodigy. An astonished Sophia asks him to release mana through the first circle. Following her instructions, he concentrates control over the circle. He already knows about the difficulty of the process for pure beginners. Even in his first life, he was unable to catch up to the likes of Duke Saxon. The best he could do was use destruction spells carved into his body using engravings. But this life is different, as he has purely inherited the talent of his father, opening the possibility to learn other forms of magic. Dale's focus is refined at his fingertips, channeling at an end point of the circle. His past life's experience helps him point an icicle shard. Sophia watches with pique interest, pointing out how Dale has correctly crystallized mana into an ice bolt. The shot is fired straight into a tree, sending it blasting into pieces. Sophia's utterly shocked once more. She thought that his power would be weak because of form, but this kid literally tore apart the wood. Her newest disciple's talent was completely out of this world. The Tower Master registered shock, stunned at his ability to perform a perfect ice spell. The boy is confused and wonders if he made a mistake of some kind. You see, the magic formula he applied is well beyond the capabilities of a normal child. Rotation is paired with acceleration and then congestion. All three stages make up for the golden ration of a spell. Saphia witnessed the young master pull off a tremendous spell to an effective degree. Shaken to her core, she realizes how precious his talent is. In the very next scene, this woman straight up offers her resignation letter to the Duke. Bro is shocked, unable to believe that a master of her caliber is calling it quits. Saphia cuts him off, revealing how the young boy terrifyingly used a lethal spell in his first lesson. The Duke fidgets in shock. No words come out his mouth. Saphia goes on to state that the 8-year-old applied the golden ratio too. Long story short, she labels Dale as the perfect specimen to become the ultimate killing machine. The boy's father realizes that Saphia's defensive teaching style is simply incompatible with Dale's attribute of violence. However, Saphia denies this and actually feels the necessity to help guide the boy's growth. Of course, even the Duke thinks that she's foolish for backing out. Saphia turns serious and highlights the dark magic of Alan's family. She already knows about Lady Elena's marriage vow. However, a serious-toned Saphia straight up calls them out on their bullshit for limiting Dale's growth, especially because of his unmatched talent. The young master is sneakily eavesdropping on this conversation but can't hear anything meaningful. He's worried sick about what will become of him. Dale wasn't really intending to pull off such a powerful spell either, and remembers Saphia's pale expression when he did. His main hurdle is his inability to control the output of his spell, something he's got to work on for his good. The boy's contemplation is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Uncle Helmet. The uncle is thrilled to meet the young master, while Dale is eager to know about his travels. Helmet explains that he was away on his duty to protect the ducal family, as well as defeat powerful monsters in the process. Our boy quickly pieces together that Helmet was battling inside a dungeon. Let's step back and understand the intricacies of this world. Monsters erupt out of dungeons, and that's a death ground for any noble's territory. Back when the Demon King was around, the monsters rampaged and caused sheer destruction. Modern-day knights are sent on missions to ensure that these monsters are never overflowing again. Their goal is to eliminate any that have escaped the dungeon. The territory of Duke Saxon is in more danger than usual, mainly because of Dale's previous life as a hero. Even though he spectacularly beat the Demon King, the territory of the boss was kept around for the Empire to use. In other words, they were handling the leftover mess of the Demon King. Dale and Helmet's conversation meets another visitor, none other than the Duke himself. Alan thanks Helmet for his tremendous dedication for the prosperity of their land, but what really surprises Dale is the arrival of his mother. Lady Elena greets him with great joy after learning that he achieved the first circle. They're even happy to reward him with a gift, which puts our boy into thinking mode. Dale entertains the idea of necromancy, but he knows that will kill the mood. Instead, Bro pulls out a wild card, and Deadass tells his parents to go make him a new sister. Both of them are stun-locked, while Helmet laughs at the sheer boldness of the young boy. That night, the young master rests comfortably in his bed, pissed off that he's got to fake being a child just to blend in. Fatigue slowly catches up to him as he drifts off into a nightmare. Here, former hero Hansung is backstabbed by the same bastard knight again. The ghost of him even mocks Hansung for enjoying a new comfortable life, and chillingly threatens him by stating that the Empire will eventually slaughter him. They'll find and exterminate him again. That eventful nightmare wakes our boy up with an overflow of mana. His heart aches, as if it is moments away from exploding. This is the effects of mana rampage, a violent phenomenon. Dale strengthens his resolve, cursing the Empire for clinging on to him until the very end. He goes outside to catch some fresh air, but the mana seeping out of his body only gets worse and worse. Panicking, he finds a beacon of hope. It's Master Saphia, who pities the boy for experiencing mana rampage for his age. At once, she places her palm over his chest, before siphoning the effects of the process. Saphia understands that if Dale's magic goes corrupt, no one will be able to reverse the process again. Thanks to her intervention, the rampaging effects are neutralized. Saphia addresses the young master, revealing the nature of magic being linked to the mirror of one's heart. Basically, each mage has a different capacity of magic simply because of their personality. In Dale's case, his talent specializes in the killing of others. This gruesome talent is dangerous for others as well as himself. Handing him a spellbook, she is proud to remain his teacher with a new art. It's the Book of Necromancy, as Saphia calls it, an amusing work of fate that they'll be together from here on. This is her birthday present for the young boy, who instantly hugs her tight, showing his gratitude. Days passed. We got a scene just outside the northern gate. Here, Saphia has brought him in front of rabbits. She wants this exercise to be similar to the hunting experience Dale shared with his father. Following her guidance, our boy prepares a heavy-duty spell to send this poor rabbit straight to hell. His concentrated ice shard travels at immense speed, and upon contact vaporizes the rabbit's flesh. A true execution, though Saphia notes something interesting. Dale had just taken a life, but without showing any signs of wavering. She reminds him of what she said earlier, how the use of the same spell is different for mages. The young master had no idea why this was the case. Saphia highlights the notion of magic acting like a mirror to one's soul. This also means it reveals a person's true personality. Sophia continues by bringing up magic names like Firewall. In reality, these names only acted to carve out magic from one's imagination. For example, the red magic tower fosters strength above all, the blue tower highlights harmony. Both of them share a different philosophy, which becomes their binding form of magic. Philosophy directly affects the spell, and it is the foundation of the magic system. There were also other towers like Noir, White, and Green. The long information dump didn't draw a response from the young master. Sophia figured she was yapping a bit too much. Let's kick things up a notch with necromancy. Channeling its most basic spell, he gathers influence around the rabbit's corpse. Tendrils of purplish black swarm the body, before assisting the corpse with mana strings to control its power. Necromancy works with focus points over the head, the spine, and one's knees. The strings act as an instrument of control. Excellently performing the spell, Dale earns praise from his teacher. They transition swiftly into the second stage, which involves the usage of an ice spell called Frozen Armor. Sending an icicle path up ahead, he helps consolidate the rabbit with a powerful spiky armor. This little fucker is ready for war. Sophia praises the armor's form, and wonders how its defenses would hold up. Casting a bunch of ice spikes, she directs a spiral of them straight up ahead. The spikes obliterate the rabbit's armor upon contact, knocking it away. However, a small layer successfully remains, bringing Dale enormous happiness. So the defense is successful, but Sophia can read his eager expression and wonders if the young master has a question he's meaning to ask. Excitedly, our boy raises his voice, begging her to teach him proper usage of water attributes as well. Though it brings a smile to her face, Sophia's response is shocking. She straight up rejects his ass, revealing that he merely performed a simple use of water magic today. Among all the forms of magic, water has an insane learning curve and requires developmental understanding. Most beginners can't even learn one form of magic at first. The only people capable of performing two at the same time are considered dual mages. Even for our boy's insane talent, Sophia thinks it's impossible for him to learn two types equally as well. In fact, the girl literally shatters his expectations for being way overconfident. Bro's reality crashes instantly, because despite his amazing usage of magic, in his teacher's eyes, he's still an amateur. The thought paralyzes our boy into despair. Anyone would be crushed by that. In fact, Dale is so disappointed by her response that he abruptly marks the end of the lesson. That same night, the boy heads over to his study room. The former hero has an absurd amount of confidence in his abilities, thinking that he could do anything if he could just learn enough. A force awakens with him, and that may or may not be a Star Wars pun, but young Anakin over here really wants to become a Jedi. After spending the entire night working his ass off, Dale arrives at the training grounds the next day. He was so exhausted that Sophia had to call his name multiple times. She can tell that he overextended and didn't get a wink of sleep. The teacher fears for the young boy overworking himself, but Dale is ready to show her what he's made of. First, he resurrects the rabbit, and then he coats it with the same armor. The Blue Tower Master is impressed by his immediate mastery over the combined spells. But a shocking development takes place when Dale uses the same armor, detonating it with an explosion that juts out spikes of ice in every direction. Sophia is stunned because the first part was just an appetizer. The undead rabbit exudes fumes of purple, before erupting with a purple energy discharge. The rabbit explodes, lashing out with ice bolts in each direction again. Sophia is so caught off guard that she has to create a defense barrier to block them. When his attack concludes, her face turns blank. Dale doesn't even seem impressed, and reveals his newly learned corpse and ice explosion abilities. Wielding both attributes, he merged their effects together. He teasingly mocks his teacher if he can be branded as a dual mage from now on. The enlightened elf stands baffled. She'd never seen an attack like this before, a mixture of both ice and dark magic to create a complex explosion trap. The detonation wasn't even the final part. Dale's usage of spikes was the cherry on top. Sophia finds herself overwhelmed, as if she is dealing with someone with only one intention: to kill. To kill mercilessly on the battlefield. It makes her wonder the kind of mental image that forms inside Dale's mind, having no idea that it's Hansung's intimidating bloodlust. The young master sees Uncle Helmet again, mounted on a horse. He's brought his team after raiding another dungeon, only this time it was a smaller group of monsters. Helmet also praises the Black Cavalry for assisting him strongly. The Black Cavalry is a special unit of lances with an immense dark aura. They're considered the strongest cavalry in the Dukedom of Saxon. Their leader, the Knight Captain Helmet himself, is considered one of the most powerful 7 swordmasters of the continent. The young master deeply respects him and begs to be taught some of the sword techniques. Helmet politely declines the offer, so the kid bids him farewell for the journey. With Captain Helmet gone, Sophia thinks it's about time they return back too. We jump ahead to later that night, where Sophia reports Dale's usage of dual magic in their recent training session. The Duke is a bit shocked to learn about Dale's usage of necromancy magic, while Lady Elena appears disappointed. Sophia deviated from her orders and ended up teaching the boy more than just water magic. She didn't want to control the scope of training, and shared that the young master expressed interest in learning necromancy. After a momentary pause, Lady Elena speaks up. she still offers strong refusal of dark magic and recommends Sophia to keep on teaching him the water attribute instead. The Blue Master gives her word and assures them she'll take care of the boy. Before leaving, Sophia feels a pang of guilt and turns to apologize to Lord Noir for breaking their promise. Exhaling, Dale's mother emphasizes her pride in Dale's ability to wield 2 magic circles for his age. She thinks it's a given for him to wield so much talent, especially as their son. With great fear and disappointment, the Duke speaks up against his wife, revealing his interest to teach Dale necromancy. He wants to hone the kid into becoming his heir and a talented mage at the same time. It's his right to bestow his magic upon his son, even though he feels terrible about breaking their promise. Speaking from concern, Dale's mother reminds him that necromancy is still viewed in a negative light by the general public. That was the main reason she wanted to sway their child from the same path. However, Lady Elena has accepted reality and no longer cares about the public perception, allowing her husband to go on teaching Dale necromancy. The Duke is rendered speechless, because only in a manhwa can a woman take real accountability. From now on, Dale's real training of necromancy will begin. Hilariously, in their first lesson, the Duke is greatly disappointed in Dale's poor control of necromancy. He can't do shit because that's all Sophia could teach him at the time. They're currently in the magic workshop, a special room in the underground of the castle. The boy's father has brought him here to showcase what real necromancy actually looks like. First, this guy summons a dozen books for his kid to memorize like a sponge. Dale's primary focus is to understand the structure of every single life form so he can control it efficiently. Time passed as this poor kid had to absorb every book like a sponge. With the basics concluded, the Duke guided him in the ways of practical magic. Excited, Dale was hungry for a real lesson. Shortly after, he found himself startled by the corpse of a goblin resting before him. The boy's father understands his confusion. The Duke explains that talented necromancers differentiate themselves by making even ordinary soldiers into capable death knights. The goblin is an undead soldier, and he grows curious about the boy's approach to control it. Channeling dark magic into his hands, Dale meets his first obstacle. You see, controlling a rabbit is no big deal because of its tiny size, but a goblin is much more complex with the usage of mana strings. Dale's first attempt is a failed connection, but he continues hammering his connection, weaving the threads to control the puppet. He applies another approach, but finds himself unable to make the goblin move. Stuck again, the young master is cornered without a solution. His father swoops in, praising the boy for stiffening the corpse's body first. However, the drawback of this approach is that it limits movement. Demonstrating a real solution, the Duke unleashes his dark tendrils, swarming the goblin's body in such an efficient manner that he targets its rib cages instead. Normally, they're supposed to protect a creature's organs, but a corpse doesn't require them, so the same ribcage manipulates into a set of claws erecting from the undead's arm. This is the art of necromancy, to alter the structure of the dead according to one's needs. Dale is supremely impressed. He turns to his father, requesting to be taught in the ways of the Noir Magic Tower. The Duke smiles, feeling pride in his body's interest. Leveling with the boy, he reveals that the truth of black magic exists in death. In order to become the best necromancer, one has to value the weight of life first. The Duke's words bring him back to the days of Hansung, where he towered over a begging opponent. His eyes were glaring red without mercy, his sword raised, and before the man's pleading even finished, Hansung slaughtered his face. The Duke shakes the boy out of his haunted experience. A haunting expression rests on his face. In truth, Dale realizes that he has walked a path of carnage and blood, but in front of his father, he acts like he's completely fine. The young master's training received progress each day, with the news of Duke Saxon teaching his son necromancy spreading across the empire like wildfire. The fact that he shattered his marital vow attracted the attention of many, and because of that, he's the center of the attention from the nobles. They are all focused on Dale's progress for good or worse. A few weeks into the future, the young boy is fiercely training against his uncle. Their flurry of slashes continue until Helmet suddenly swings his blade near the boy's face. Shockingly, the young boy slams it with a deflection so powerful that Helmet's weapon is knocked away. The boy's uncle is impressed by his ability, while the young master understands that this was just a trick. Helmet dropped his weapon on purpose, but in reality, it's actually because Dale deployed special sword techniques that would ordinarily be capable of killing someone in a fight. Our boy's hands are all swollen up, but he still got the W, so that's good. Helmet is stunned by his swordsmanship and wonders why the kid is focusing on becoming a mage. Then again, knights are always protecting mages, so Helmet also doesn't understand why Dale is training with such ferocity. It's worrisome because he fears the kid might end up with an injury at this rate. With his hand patched up, Dale responds with strong resolve. The reality is he doesn't want to rely on defensive guards to protect him all the time. But that's just a cover. The sneaky little kid's real intention is to learn sword mastery from his brilliant uncle. Helmet laughs, hailing it as an excellent answer. They were having a nice conversation when Dale's mother chimed in all of a sudden. The young master wonders why she's here in the chilly training grounds. Elena comes to check on his progress and reveals that she's got some news to share. First, she brings up the birthday present that Dale requested. The kid doesn't have any clue until Bro remembers his demand of a little sister. Yeah, the Duke clapped her cheeks that same night, and what do you know? The baby's on the way. Dale is ecstatic hearing this news. 10 months passed. Lo and behold, a sister has been made. The young master struggles to believe that he finally has a sibling. Lady Elena even offers the boy to hold the little one, earning his shock. Dale grabs his baby sister gently, and surprisingly, she goes all quiet in his embrace. Ooh, in the comments for Papa Duke's commitment to the cause. The young master holds his precious sister in his arms, while the boy's father emphasizes that this is the true weight of life. This is what he needs to protect. And finally, it is time for his next lesson. Fast forwarding to a scene with Master Sophia, we have her teaching him some real combat training. It almost stuns Dale that he's being offered to fight seriously. The Blue Tower Master gives him permission to come at her with full strength. With that, the young master sweeps up a magic circle to prepare a spell, while his teacher Sophia eagerly wonders just how much the boy has improved. The first thing he does is shoot a bolt of ice right at her face. Sophia casually swipes it and destroys it, calling it a slow first attack. She does the same for his second attack, and calls him out on his bullshit for going easy on her. Dale is speechless, realizing that he's exposed. Responding kindly, Sophia offers her first strike, even advising the boy to quickly put up a barrier. Terrified, the young master barely blocks the attack. If he hadn't done that, it would have left him bruised up badly. Sophia is satisfied with the young master's quick reflexes to conjure up an ice armor. That last-minute defense worked, but now she wants him to come at her full speed. With his hand placed on the ground, the young master manipulates the molecular combination of the ice wall, erecting a wall of ice. This towering behemoth of a wall stuns Sophia, who doesn't understand his intention to use such a move. From a glance, she notices just how dense the ice is, which means it is sufficiently durable. Again, Sophia can't place a finger on why he would deliberately cast an ice wall of all things. The only conclusion that plagues her mind is that maybe the young master is deliberately stalling to recover. Oh, but you guys aren't ready for this next move. This man turns the entire wall of ice and fragments it into a honeycomb structure. The goal? Utter destruction. Chanting detonate, Dale manipulates the wall and obliterates it point blank in Sophia's face. The wall fades, while the young master believes that he's just landed a critical move. He'd already strengthened the ice wall's density and then forced it to explode and shoot out. It's a move that isn't easy for anyone to avoid or get out of unscathed. The dust settles, and our boy's face drops when he sees the shocking sight of his master's body torn apart. The real Sophia exposes herself behind the frozen statue, appearing unharmed. Dale lets out a sigh. For a moment there, he really thought he killed his teacher. Turns out that Sophia casted an illusion. First, she praises the boy for his impressive usage of magic. Despite her quick-time defense, Sophia still ended with a scratch on her face. It's crazy to think that a mere boy wielding the first circle managed to harm a tower master. Dale apologizes for hurting her, but she's genuinely happy. It thrills her that he landed a scratch, because this shows that Dale was going all out and trusted his teacher to defend well. Wiping off her scratch, she calls him an excellent student. It baffles her that he was able to conjure up such an insane spell formula just like that. Dale gives her all the credit. What's really fucking hilarious is that Sophia is all fine here, but in the next scene, girl is suffering peak depression. Even the Duke is like, yo, what the fuck, why do you have that scratch? Sophia responds that her carelessness resulted in an attack succeeding. Duke Saxon respects her for enduring pain, but Sophia actually loves sharpening Dale's talent. The Duke shares an additional request, which Sophia is delighted to hear. He reveals that a group of orcs have invaded the mountain range, and honestly, it's a pretty normal group of monsters for a cavalry's worth of time. Here's the amazing part. This man is sending his barely 10-year-old child into the battlefield for this fight. Sophia takes issue with this approach, highlighting how the boy is unready for a real mission. But Dale's father assures her that the kid won't fight on the front lines. Their main objective is to defend the territory as part of House Saxon. Exuding malevolent dark energy, the Duke intends to make sure his son understands his responsibilities well. A clueless Sophia asks for instructions. Turns out that Dale's going to be handed a pretty trusted artifact for this mission, and it's going to require Sophia's guidance so that he can control it well. Now let's talk about artifacts. These are materials with magical power stored inside, and can be activated by channeling mana or offering one's body as a payment. Typically, the most powerful artifacts are also the most dangerous, and potentially prove to be fatal. House Saxon has a ton of these bad boys in store in their artifact vault. Dale is being taken there, serving as the heir of the Duke, as the one who will participate in the upcoming battle. This revelation is news to the boy, who is thrilled to finally get some real combat experience. Duke Saxon shares his goal to exterminate the orc horde with a subjection team. Before he can go on to execute this mission, the boy needs to wield the power of darkness properly. In front of him are 3 powerful artifacts put up for display. The Saxon family has a treasury of the artifacts of the Demon King, gaining them after conquering the Demon King's domain. They're well beyond the strength of ordinary artifacts, evidenced by their overwhelming mana flow. The Duke highlights that they're all immensely powerful, which makes them just as dangerous. It's important for Dale to harness total control before using any of them. Speaking of Dale, the kid straight up says peace out and dips on his papa. The Duke helplessly looks around searching for his son. Meanwhile, the kid is roaming around, searching for a compatible artifact. One interesting artifact calls out to him, sensing the young master's need to exact revenge against his enemies. This murderous fucker along with many others call out to him, seducing him with their attractive power. Dale realizes that these artifacts can sense the thread of Hansung coursing through his veins. However, he can't rely on their calling alone, and desires something even more powerful. One such artifact appears interesting to him. It's a cloak. This thing is called the Shadow Cloak, and it has a rich history attached to it. Back during Hansung's time, one of the dukes of the Demon King's army actually used this top-tier artifact. With its unique ability to manifest shadows, it became a hassle to fight against. Intrigued, the young master puts it on quickly, except Saphia and his father catch on and yell his name. Suddenly, the cloak engulfs him into a different dimension. The moment he wore it, he could gain access to its feelings. The artifact shares a bottomless pit of hunger. Its previous master could summon a tornado of shadow at will, bending darkness to his will. But in order to access its full potential, Dale's objective is to defeat the creature residing inside the artifact, dominating it to his will. The dark creature gives form to monsters of black, aiming to dominate the young boy. Dale is in some serious tough luck, and the worst part is, no one from the outside can help him. It's kind of like a domain expansion space right now. Sephia's concern grows, while the Duke worriedly admits that his son might be devoured by the entity at this rate. Things are looking bad, so the Duke is ready to intervene and pull him out by force. Both of them are shocked when a blinding flash of light erupts from the barrier. Dale emerges from it safe and sound, wearing his all-new epic drip. The Blue Tower Master checks on his state. Luckily, nothing happened, and that's the part that worries his father. Duke Saxon can't even fathom how a little boy his age was able to endure the burden of a powerful artifact. Curious, the young master queries his father. Filled with joy, he begs to try on the rest of the artifacts as well, which is a short way of saying he wants to tame them all. This psychotic request baffles both of them. Still, the Duke accepts his request. And that's how our boy ended up exploring each and every artifact in their family's treasury without rest. More days passed with the young master's continued training. Helmet found himself flabbergasted at the sight of the boy wearing the majestic shadow cloak. The kid confirms this, though Helmet is stunned that a small child is somehow controlling the cloak without any problems. Dale tells him that he only feels a tingling sensation bothering him sometimes, but other than that, he's got things under control. The young master knows that the cloak hasn't met a master for a while, which is why it is especially drawn to him. Most people are terrified of the shadowy creature, but our boy is out here using talk no jutsu to make friends with it. Helmet thinks the kid is a psycho for calling a creature of the dark lonely. Hilariously, Dale steps on his so-called new friend, humbling the creature's ego. The kid has a request that he's been meaning to ask. Dale straight up asks for a real sparring match to test his abilities. Thrilled and aching for a battle, the swordmaster readies his towering sword, prepared to match the kid's expectations. Meanwhile, our boy is starting to realize that he's cooked and burnt to shit, because facing one of the greatest swordmasters of their time is no joke. The man says, "Do not fear," but anyone would be pissing their pants in this situation. The good thing is that Helmet intends to use basic swordsmanship only, so that's a free handicap for the young master. Dale fully understands how knights fight with sincerity. His main goal in the fight isn't to fight seriously, but to use the full extent of his cloak's abilities. Using the power of the dark, Dale commands the use of shadow creatures, which is the key benefit for this artifact. As a test, he uses the ability called Shadow Blade Rush to send tendrils of black against his opponent. The fierce knight utterly demolishes all of these tendrils with a single slash of his blade. It's a striking response enough to stun the young master. Helmet praises the boy and bolts right ahead to go on the offense this time. Less than a second later, he's already up in the kid's face. The young master meticulously engulfs the ground in shadows in an effort to trap the knight. The same shadowy ground erupts with spikes to catch him off guard. The knight wasn't expecting to be caught into a sudden trap. But just like last time, this man literally shatters the use of the ability with just raw strength alone. Dale is cornered and attempts to use an interesting ability to block Helmet's offense. The knight is impressed, because just now, he'd used enough strength to shatter any ordinary weapon into pieces. This fight is enlightening him about the special abilities of a top-grade artifact. Intrigued, Helmet is in the mood for at least 10 more of those attacks in similar capacity. The fight between the young master and his hero continued, while the rest of the Black Cavalry stood in awe and bafflement. In all of their duels with Helmet, none of them had ever been able to withstand even 10 hits from their captain. It felt as if they were being outshined and outcompeted by a literal 10-year-old. More days passed. It was finally the night of mission deployment. Before heading out, Lady Elena worriedly came up to her son. She offered strong refusal of his mission participation, but but our boy assured his mom that it'll be chill with Helmet protecting him. The worried mother didn't want her baby boy to get hurt. Dale assures her that he has to become stronger so that he could one day lead the same dukedom his father commands. For those difficult times, Dale needed to put in the effort now so that he could protect his family. He requests his dear mother to have faith in him and to let him carry on this responsibility. The boy's sincere request is enough to melt her heart. Granting him full permission, she sees him mounting on top of his horse. In the next scene, we're brought to the temporary base. Helmet has prepared his troops with all the necessary equipment, and they're ready to go. The boy's father is also there, and suddenly instructs Dale to command the cavalry to march ahead. The young master is confused until the Duke explains that this same cavalry will be under his leadership someday. Even from now on, they're his knights. This marks an important moment for him. No longer is he leading as the hero Hansung anymore. Instead, he's the leader of the Black Cavalry as Dale, and this time the outcome will be different. Assuming leadership, the kid addresses his valiant warriors. With his hand raised to the heavens, he roars the march of House Saxon. Shortly afterward, the troops are sent into motion. 250 men are being deployed alongside the elite ranger unit for the mission. Their objective is to eliminate close to 1,000 orcs who have already crossed the mountains and are headed to the river to escape the cold. The Black Cavalry intends to lead the first attack by crossing the lower section of the river in an effort to ambush their target. The big obstacle is, of course, the overflowing deep river. 250 men won't be able to cross it. For this purpose, the ethereal blue elf steps up with her ice magic ready to create a bridge of ice. Dale is happy to find her participating on this mission alongside them, even with her pacifist nature. The water magic ushers a path ahead, allowing the group to safely pass. She will no longer be assisting them beyond this point and wishes them good luck. Dale says his goodbyes too, but the moment he leaves, Sophia is left moved by him. She feels profound worry for her student and cares about his safety. Let's head over to the orc base. Our group has already arrived here, preparing their fiery arrows to ambush the monsters. With the release of the arrows, the orcs are alarmed and dozens of them collapse immediately. The rest of them erupt with anger, while Helmet roars at his first 3 battalions to form a wedge. They lead the charge while the commander watches from above, inquiring about Dale's opinion. The analytical young boy notices that the horses are moving close to 40 kilometers an hour. The current formation is the Kull Lance formation, greatly amped by the aura of each knight. This is an attack so devastating that the orcs won't be able to survive. From the looks of things, even Dale admits that this fight is completely one-sided in their favor, while the Duke admits that the power of their cavalry is no joke. Helmet ushers the boy to stay sharp on his toes. They haven't won yet. In fact, this was only just the beginning. Responding to the Kull formation of the knights, the orc creates a wedge of their own, intelligently blocking with shields. The commander knight confesses that this ambush won't be enough to finish the orcs off. The smart play here is to retreat and reorganize for a secondary charge until most of the orcs are wiped out. He sends a beaming flare up in the skies, which is a signal for the knights to retreat. The same aggressive knights who were devastating the orcs just turned back and left. This is a stunning revelation for the monsters. In order to capitalize on this opportunity, they take aim at the retreating knights with their spears. Unfortunately, their aim might be a little too good, I'm afraid, because one spear literally downs a poor horse with a single hit. Take note, because this is a really critical moment for Dale, who is visibly shaken by the fall of an ally. The men behind him, experts of war, consider this man already dead even if he's just injured. The same defenseless knight can do nothing in the field where an orc is preparing to finish him off. Annoyed to the brim, the young master fiercely looks at the adults, questioning their refusal to do anything about the situation. The 2 men stay quiet, knowing they don't have a response. Right now, the knight is about to get mauled to death, and Dale isn't fast enough to save him with his horse. Instead, he focuses inward, with the goal of using an ability to pierce the orc with a long-distance shot. The typical orc has really thick skin, adding for tough defense. For this approach to work, Dale intends to manipulate the ice bolt formula, inspiring his creation from a bullet. He also calculates the necessary trajectory to aim his new weapon precisely. With those fundamentals set, the genius kid coats the ice bolt into a bullet, inspired by the Barrett M98B. With his finger pointed at the behemoth, he fires a shot so incredibly fast that it pierces the orc's side, gravely injuring it with a clean hit. The Duke is fascinated while Helmet is impressed by Dale's perfect trajectory. Using this opportunity to make his move, Dale charges right into the battlefield. The Duke doesn't want his kid to be stopped. In fact, his face is full of pride. He can't believe that his son managed to create a unique formula with an insane level of destructive power. It shows that Dale's inner world is nearing its completion cycle. As our boy charges into the battlefield, he notices a unique pattern from the orcs. They're regrouping for another tactical response. Dale wants to save the knight, but he's got 2 problems to face. The first isn't an issue, but the second, involving his original formula for combat, is way too long for practical use. He highlights how simple formulas from math like this very basic one you see on the screen are shortened to make things easier. In a similar manner, Dale intends to shorten his formulas as well. This time, he takes inspiration from the Ice 98 Magnum instead of the Barrett. Though it still seems long, the devious young master is thrilled to test it out. Deploying the use of his ice magic again, he takes aim and absolutely obliterates the orc's head with an ice bullet. That piercing round kills the damn thing instantly, while the helpless knight staggers, questioning why the young master would risk his life so much just to save him. Dale steps down, assuring the young man that he's in safe hands. He never wants to be the type of leader who abandons his men for serving him. Now that's a damn slap to the face to his pops and uncle if you ask me. Well, he better execute on those words because 2 more of these ugly fuckers are approaching fast. Instead of using ice magic, this time our boy commands the use of shadows, engulfing the arena with slashes of black. This ability is called the Shadow Blade, and it cuts everything in the domain, kind of like Sukuna's malevolent shrine. Heads are being chopped off while the cloak entity devours their bodies. This thing literally gobbles them up like KFC and leaves only bones behind. The last orc observes in sheer horror, realizing it's dead as hell. Dale laughs at his bravery, before massacring it with an ice bullet. And with that, the group is taken care of. Unfortunately, even after saving the knight, apparently this guy's broken his legs and can't move. Something tells me the dude is gonna get fired the second they go back. Our boy carries him like a princess and arrives safely with flying colors. Commander Helmet is more than happy to lead the full charge upon the boy's return. House Saxon's forces are more motivated than ever after witnessing their young master's epic display of bravery. In the next scene, we come to learn that these guys basically off-screen the entire fleet of orcs. The mission is a success, but the Duke has personal business with his son. With a serious tone, he questions why his son rushed into battle recklessly. The Duke's face is the most annoyed it's ever been, while the young master realizes that his pops is actually scolding him. Dale confidently reminds his pops of his own words, when he said that he would lead the cavalry one day. His response just now was just befitting of that resolution. The Duke instantly calls out the boy's weak reason. It's actually eye-opening for the young master because he knows his father loves his men. Wait, what? Dale counters by asking his father why he stood by to watch his own people die. The Duke explains that the knights who go into the battle are never expecting to be saved by others. They know the risks involved, but the boy argues that he should have still tried to save the poor guy. The Duke angrily scolds him, expressing that his action just now created an expectation. Because he saved one person, the rest of the knights would now expect someone to save them too. This is a goddamn nuke of a point that actually makes sense in Dale's head. The Duke wonders just how many knights will the boy be able to save with that kind of mindset. Dale remains speechless, while Duke Saxon reminds him that the knights train for this duty, and that he won't intervene unless he sees them genuinely reaching the limits of their combat. It is the kind of respect he gives to their cause. Unfortunately, Pops over here is hammering some really solid points that the young master is incapable of refuting. This simple truth was made clear to Hansung in his previous life, but he ended up forgetting it. Having said all of that, the Duke comforts his son, stating how proud he is of Dale's spirit in battle. He wants to continue sharpening that spirit for upcoming battles. With their discussion coming to a close, the subjugation mission is deemed a success, and the group returns to the castle. Shortly afterwards, the story of a young boy charging into the battlefield to save a knight reached the ears of the people. These claims are now being exaggerated to unrealistic expectations. For example, people think Dale managed to kill 1,000 orcs all by himself. He couldn't escape the embarrassment while walking among them, but at least it made the people of his territory happy. More days passed, as Dale's training continued in the training arena. When Lil Bro was discovered by the knights, they sang praises and made him even more embarrassed. Helmet laughed and told the boy to accept it with glee. They raised their fists in the glory days of becoming even stronger. Their passionate spirits pleased Dale when suddenly a maid arrives to inform them of the arrival of new guests from House Orhart. Our boy thanks her and is looking forward to meeting a special guest. Let's talk about Martial House Orhart. It's a respectable family, with Patriarch Bardell the Divine Sword founding it. Right after the launch of the Unification War, the Patriarch Bardell was washed alongside his house. Dale notices Helmet's sorrowful expression. His uncle was actually taught by the Divine Sword and led into the path of knighthood. As they make their way to the throne room, the young master understands why his uncle might be uncomfortable. The Duke praises his son for training diligently, while the butler informs the arrival of the guests. A blonde lady and her daughter walk with poise, no attendants in sight. Vanessa Orhart greets the Duke with respect, but her bratty little daughter is pissed off for some reason. Probably needs a medieval version of Snickers to fix her attitude. Charlotte causes the worst scene imaginable, disrespecting the Duke by questioning why her mother would bow to these people. It's the height of disrespect, but Duke Saxon pays it no mind. Instead, he wants his son to escort Charlotte around the castle for a bit, a duty the young master is happy to fulfill. Our sweet innocent boy offers his hand, but this blonde mini Karen of a kid is so angry that she swats his hand away. In fact, she shoved it so hard that Dale's palm swells up red. Duke Saxon is pissed. Lady Elena is horrified, while the realization dumps on Charlotte's face. Instead of backing down, this kid calls them a bunch of shameless nobles, digging a deeper grave for herself. Vanessa scolds her daughter, demanding that she apologize immediately. but Charlotte rages off, exiting the room. Vanessa is left with a humiliating display as she tries to make up for her daughter's blatant disrespect. Lady Elena asks what caused her to be this way. Turns out that Count Brandenburg, yes, the same dude who fucked over Hansung, was assigned to their territory recently. The guy is revered as the Holy Knight of the Empire, so it's impossible not to have heard of him. But a lot of people also notoriously call him the Pig King, because this scoundrel is looking to put his seed into a skilled swordsman just to create the perfect heir. Currently, the bastard's sights are on Charlotte, even if she's just a kid right now. Bro is straight up a PDF file, and Vanessa even highlights how this unholy knight actually tried to get his hands on her once already. The little girl is actually traumatized, and though she wishes to protect her daughter, Vanessa is incapable of doing much. Their family has been eradicated, so she's a fallen noble. In fact, she has come here today to make a formal request for Duke Saxon to make her a maid of the house, just so that the filthy Brandenburg can't get hold of her. Outside in the training grounds, he finds Charlotte looking worked up. Dale treats her without a hint of rudeness, which actually gets her to calm down a bit. She even asks about his hand, while the young master internalizes how he's dealing with just a kid in the end. Whipping out her sword in successive fashion, she points her blade at him, ordering Dale to have a match with her. This sudden invitation catches our boy off guard, making him realize that this kid really doesn't give a shit and just does whatever she wants. The young master doesn't really have an incentive to fight, but this young lady has heard a ton of rumors about the kid who saved a princess knight from the battlefield and slaughtered 1,000 orcs. She wants a taste of victory against a powerful foe like him, so she can be branded as the strongest in the empire. This way she can prove to the world that her family doesn't need the help of the filthy Count Brandenburg. The moment our boy heard his name, his expression shifted to sheer anger. How could he forget that bastard? That's the guy who backstabbed him and ended his life. It's clear to him that this girl harbors great distaste for the same enemy, which means there's a chance for them to become allies. However, before that alliance, our boy wants to humbly give this girl a reality check. He decides to go pick up a short blade from the barrel and mocks Charlotte for being a mere child. Thanks to this insult, he has riled her up to the point she wants to go all out against him. A fierce-looking Charlotte blitzes with a tremendous speed, but her sword is inevitably blocked by our boy. She attempts to stab him relentlessly, exhausting every ounce of her strength. Meanwhile, Dale is mildly showing signs of struggle, analyzing Charlotte's fighting pattern. She is capable of deflection and has a sharp wrist for quick reflexes. She's so impressive that there's a trail of aura coming off of her. Charlotte wields a rapier much larger than her body can handle, but it's thanks to her aura that she can use it swiftly. A mage generates mana by cycling it around their heart, but knights are different. They use their aura to boost their body's physical capabilities. Currently, Charlotte is doing that and attempting to overwhelm him. Her raw talent as a knight is clear as day. She even performs a pointed strike that stuns Dale despite a successful dodge. The fight pushes on, while the bratty young child is confident of her victory. Let's take a peek into her life. Moments after the girl was born, her father had already passed. Vanessa, her mother, always told her bedtime stories of his heroic achievements. She wanted to hone her as the proud daughter of the almighty divine sword. Charlotte began training relentlessly from a young age, and even after her family's collapse, she refused to give up. But despite her resolve and impenetrable determination, she's consistently getting countered by the boy in front of her. Dale's perfect defense personally offends her, to the point she overextends, making a mistake. Capitalizing, the young master thwarts her weapon, launching it into the air as the battle comes to an end. The mighty daughter of the divine sword suffers her first defeat, questioning how she even lost. She weeps at her failure, while the boy in front of her instills her an important lesson. Charlotte's mistake is that she is clinging to the identity of her father. Dale brutally gives her the reality check he envisioned by emphasizing how weak her current level of strength is. In fact, Count Brandenburg is much stronger than the current version of Dale. Defeated and lost, Charlotte begs for an answer on her next move. It is here that Dale declares his name as the protector of House Orhart from now on, assuring the young lady that House Saxon will protect her until the day she becomes strong enough to defeat Brandenburg. Confused, Charlotte questions why he would do so much for her. The young master expresses that she's worth the cause as long as she swears loyalty to their house. Wiping her tears, she accepts the offer and kneels before the young master, promising to serve him as a knight. Even though it seems like a vain and childish promise, Dale could sense her dominating resolve behind it and understood her feelings. Afterwards, our boy went to his pops to formally inform him of Charlotte's installation as the new maid. The Duke is surprised to see how the girl flipped a switch on her attitude. Dale simply tells his father of a promise the two made between each other, a vow to protect House Orhart. This revelation annoys the Duke, and he asks if Dale used their family name out of pity. The young master strongly denies such an idea, and reveals an even greater ideal. He wants to obtain the talent of the divine sword's legacy. That oath is going to create a new divine sword that will one day become a powerful strength for their family. Impressed by this response, the Duke praises his son. Dale is happy to have made a new ally, and believes it will even hurt Count PDF File's ego. Speaking of that filthy man, he's in Malberg roaring at the top of his lungs after hearing the news of the girl's newest association. The unholy knight is furious that his useless men couldn't even capture a single girl. Even after sending assassins, it turns out their men were killed even before invading House Saxon. This means that Charlotte must have killed them. Enraged, Count Brandenburg reaches for his sword. Embracing his weapon, he relives the joyous memory of betraying Hansung on the battlefield like a true psychopath. This man is literally horny for his sword, calling it his fiancé and shit. Might as well shove it up his ass at this point. He has a mad obsession with his weapon being inherited by a competent heir. Count Brandenburg orders his servant to contact the Thieves Guild, intending to send even more men to House Saxon's territory. He's even ready to pay them fat checks just to get his hands on Charlotte. 1 week passed since Charlotte swore her oath of servitude. She had to train relentlessly to qualify for becoming a proper maid. She also fought against our boy to train in physical combat. Helmut saw their duels as they faced each other again. Dale fought with a short sword and went for the offensive this time, forcing her to snappily deflect. The swordmaster noticed her being overwhelmed, but he'd never even imagined a duel this fierce would take place between two kids. Though they weren't compared to actual knights, their sheer killing intent paired well with their fast reflexes. The young master suddenly grabs his cloak before unveiling his weapon. It's an interesting move, one that surprises Charlotte. She actually tries to stab him, but Helmut intervenes and stops the fight. Though the knight praises the little girl, she refuses empty compliments and asks for immediate feedback. Helmut starts off by asking if the young lady knows about the essence of her weapon. So far, she was only using it as a thrusting force, but in reality, the true essence of her weapon relied on her impressive footwork. The thing about Dale is that he was simultaneously dodging her attacks while gaining on her. The moment she sensed she was getting overwhelmed, Charlotte should have widened the distance between them. The problem with a rapier's defense is that it quickly loses precision. From the way things seem, unfortunately Helmut reveals that Charlotte will have to rework her fighting style completely. Even her posture and fighting style is full of openings. The girl pouts. She's never really had a proper teacher before, so no one could correct her mistakes. Helmut even teases her by calling her style an odd way of thrusting. Charlotte is humiliated while he laughs, assuring the young lady that he's just teasing her. Meanwhile, our boy wonders just how much she'll improve after being coached by one of the greatest swordmasters around. He thinks that it's possible for Charlotte to blow him out of the water at some point. In the next scene, we deep dive into magic training. Dale understands that the process of constructing more mana circles is the same, except there's one problem. It takes a shitload of time, even decades to improve. The shocking part? Sephia learns that the prodigious young master has already completed his second circle. This world measures mana circles by RPM or rotations per minute. An ordinary mage has around 300 RPM, but for our boy, his first circle alone bursts at 2000 RPM and his second is currently at 400. A new circle always requires a minimum of 300 RPM, which means Dale has even fulfilled requirements to tap into the third circle. Excited to test out a new experiment after attaining the second circle, the young master whips out his ice bullet technique. First, he enhances its strength by increasing its hardness. Next, he takes aim at the nearest tree, boosting the bullet's rotation to increase its speed. Lo and behold, the first armor-piercing bullet is shot with so much destructive capability that it obliterates a tree. The young master is stunned by the level of his own improvement, finding it much easier to control the bullet. His teacher Sophia is proud of his talent, while Dale credits her fully for her guidance. She even contemplates how this same genius boy is full of wonders, and always uses his power for the right cause. His strength terrifies her to some extent, but ultimately Sophia trusts him on a very deep level, embracing him as her proud student. Dale is caught off guard and finds it really uncomfortable, given that he was a grown-ass man in his previous life. Later that same day, Bro finds himself a little worked up because of his teacher. He even starts wondering if Sophia really sees him as just a child, and I mean, that is the obvious explanation, my guy. Warding off irrelevant thoughts, the young master focuses on his training. Bro uses Sung Jin-woo's iconic Arise to call forth a wall of ice. Next, he tests the integrity of its defense by throwing a shotgun-style ice bullet barrage. Each bullet bounces right off of the wall, finding its way back to Dale. The young master uses his barrier to defend, and wonders if he should experiment with a slug shot next time. Suddenly, Charlotte pops out of the woods. She's been meaning to find him, and recently began practicing the fancy footwork under Helmut's guidance. The young master can see that she really enjoys learning swordsmanship. But Charlotte has actually come here for a different purpose. With a flushed face, she begins apologizing for her rude behavior. She has done some reflection and realized how terrible she acted. Instead of cutting her some slack, Bro straight up agrees that she's a rude brat, crushing her ego. At the same time, he forgives her, and requests that she treat him casually like before. A little while later, they're hanging out. Charlotte passionately talks about the cool weather, enjoying the wind during training. Our boy feels happy. At last he's found a companion who feels the same way as him. Hilariously, our boy's parents are already shipping these two together while watching the scene. Lady Elena intends to keep a watchful eye on them, and actually aspires to help Dale realize his feelings eventually. In the next scene, we're on the outskirts of the dukedom. Elena shows her son what it means to help the poor. Each week, she dutifully supplies the impoverished with food and helps them find work. Dale and Charlotte have begun to accompany her from this year. Suddenly, the blonde notices a weeping boy begging for help. The boy's mother is in danger, as he desperately begs Charlotte to help. Things are looking bad, and our boy knows that they're being led into a trap. They're not even being accompanied by any knights, and this alleyway isn't safe. The sketchy part is that the child refused to contact an adult and instead dragged Charlotte. Dale observes his surroundings. There's a guy sitting on top of a roof from the Thieves Guild. Immediately, our boy realizes that they're being cornered by Brandenburg's men. The same kid who cried wolf suddenly acts like he's gotta go fetch his mom. He disappears, and a group of suspicious men pop out to capture the kids. They don't care much about the boy, and have only interest in kidnapping Charlotte. But our boy wants all the smoke, while this stinky green-haired slimeball threatens to take his life. The young master states his promise of protecting the sole daughter of the Orhart family, especially against these vermin. Their leader praises his childish chivalry, and leaves his men to personally teach the arrogant kid a lesson. They think Dale needs a lesson in pain, to learn what the real world looks like. Charlotte senses danger, especially when she doesn't even have a sword on her. The young master assures her that the situation is under control. In fact, it's the perfect chance for him to test his top-grade artifact's newest technique. 2 men pounce at them from the front, 2 from behind. Before they could even initiate the first assault, tendrils of black start to wrap around their bodies. They slash at them, cutting past the shadows, while Dale watchfully observes. The thug leader is the only one who catches on and roars at his stupid men to dodge instead. Dale is impressed with this guy's observation skills, wondering if he's of a high rank even. They quickly dash away, but the one dude who tried to slash it ends up being ruthlessly slaughtered. This is the newest technique that Dale acquired after reaching the second circle. It creates parasitical shadows around his victims, ones that can move on their own and invade their bodies. For example, the guy who is caught is literally devoured. His soul is sucked until he becomes a creature of the dark. This dude 10 times scarier than the fucking Wolverine and has the size of the Hulk. I would be quitting my job if I were these guys. The undead monster is starving for breakfast, while his friends express horror. The leader sends them marching to their deaths to kill the beast. Even if it's the young master of Saxon dukedom, one blade would be enough to kill him, right? So he lunged right in to corner the boy, intimidating him by dancing around like a gay pigeon. Bro thinks he's in Naruto and throws his kunai acting like they're unstoppable. Dale casually blocks them and uses a 12-gauge buckshot to slime this guy. I mean, this dude is literally a cheese slice full of holes now. Charlotte watches our boy absolutely dog-walk these amateurs. His pet undead monster is also wreaking havoc. By the way, the earlier attack was more of an exaggeration if anything. This dude didn't really become a cheese slice because of his thick aura. Dude still thinks he's got a chance, so he charges up ahead. The result? Instant Kit Kat treatment like Gojo Satoru. Dale walks up to his new pet, who literally devours a human body. The kid checks on Charlotte, wondering if she's doing okay. It seems one of the thugs survived the onslaught, while the rest of his friends have been sliced to bits. Even while our boy is tending to Charlotte's condition, he casually uses an ice bullet to tear this dude's leg right off. Bro's never gonna need a wheelchair for the rest of his life. The terrified thug even offers to reveal everything about their group's intentions. But Dale is one cold-blooded murderer. He puts a bullet in this guy's head and expresses complete disregard. Bro is handling things all American style at this point. The young master explains how these people are the enemies of their house, the ones responsible for enacting terror. However, he promises her that he will protect Charlotte, and wonders if she is afraid. Though she admits to being scared, she's also happy that our boy fought very hard to protect her. Ever since they made that vow, she found herself convinced. She wanted to protect his house the same way he vowed to protect hers. Charlotte longed to become even stronger for the sake of the young master. Her words left him speechless. You see, the real reason our boy took her in is deeply linked to the dark future that occurred 24 years ago. Hansung stood before her father when he met his end, but now he wants to correct the past by keeping her close. Charlotte took his hand as they formed a connection even greater than Dale initially hoped for. As for Count Berger over here, Bro is utterly seething at the news of their failure. He has personally received a letter from the Duke of Saxon, with the intention of having a personal chit-chat with the man. The Duke's words already imply that he knows about this scumbag's schemes. Brandenburg knows that even with his position as the Divine Sword, he's just incapable of refusing such an offer. Days passed and we arrived at the castle. Brandenburg has come here, his face looking more worried than ever. Duke Saxon taunts him and humbly welcomes them to his castle. The Holy Sword fakes his sincerity and assures the Duke that it is his pleasure to arrive. But this clown is already seething at the sight of Charlotte and Dale. The Holy Knight starts off by diving into the recent attempt at a kidnapping. He laughs it off, acting like it's a joke that things escalated to this point, and even acts like his name was falsely accused in the matter. The most powerful necromancer of their era answers with a pulsing veil of shadows. The pressure is overwhelming the Holy Knight and his men. It's only thanks to his mighty sword that this guy is able to block the attack. But for his men, they literally evaporate to sheer dust. suffering the most brutal death. Count Brandenburg is astonished by the height of the Duke's powers. His face drops to terror, knowing that he fucked around too much and is about to find out. Duke Saxon used an advanced dark magic spell to vaporize expert knights just now. The Holy Sword drops formalities and begs for mercy, but the Duke commands him to get down on his knees. Brandenburg tries to talk sense into the Duke, emphasizing just how forceful his actions are, but Dale's papa is royally pissed and commands him to get down. He's even ready to unleash yet another spell if the Count refuses his order. The figure of the Duke's intimidating power is enough to force the Holy Sword on his knees. Not even he expected things to get this ugly for him. Like the good boy he is, he kneels before the Duke, who shares that this is the only chance to make up for peace. On top of that, he warns the Holy Knight that if he ever dares to touch the children of House Saxon again, he will personally eradicate every last member of his house. After a thorough psychological beatdown and humiliation, the Duke threateningly tells Brandenburg to rest up for a while. The Holy Knight refuses this offer, stating that he has urgent matters to attend to and must exit the territory. The Duke bids him farewell as the pathetic knight disgracefully leaves. Dale has the widest smile on his face. Bro is loving his pops humbling this fucker's ego for once. However, this exact moment is detained to create a butterfly effect that will soon escape things throughout the Empire. Things always start small, but then the fire spreads and everyone will burn. During that moment, an older version of Dale will ultimately have to defeat the Holy Swordsman. The news of the Holy Swordsman's humiliation before the Duke of Noir will shake the very world. Dale's father suddenly unveils a bunch of bodies. They're all corpses that died in the fight against Dale. Sephia is struck with sheer horror after discovering how mercilessly a mere child slaughtered these men. They were full of holes, their organs were destroyed, and a moment of doubt came over to her. She feared that her teachings might have accidentally created a monster. The Noir Duke understands that his son requires proper guidance and wisdom in the right direction. For this role, he openly appoints her as the chief advisor. In other words, she's being given an official position inside House Saxon, instead of acting merely as the boy's teacher. Dale's growth is reliant on how much Sophia can mold him. Even the Duke understands that he can't help nurture his son perfectly. It will only be thanks to her help that the boy will seek a greater potential. Sophia understands the role she has to play, and this time intends to learn the way Dale sees the world. That will inform her what to do next. More time passed, and eventually the young master became 10 years old. Last year's celebration was different, because this time, noteworthy nobles from the Emperor's court came to attend too. The most proper guest of all was an established figure, Marquis Eurus, who expressed keen interest in our boy. Let's go back a few minutes. The nobles all around were impressed by House Saxon's hosting event. The most important nobles of the capital belonged to the Emperor's faction. These people influenced all the important decisions running across the empire. It was crystal clear to our boy why these cunning individuals came to his birthday. It was actually to warn House Saxon, a subtle message from the royal family that they were watching, and that they wouldn't ignore what happened to Count Brandenburg. Well, the guy standing in front of our boy, Marquis Eurus, is actually chosen for the role of the messenger. He's the one leading the charge on this secret mission, and comfortably makes himself known to the Duke's son. Lord Crimson is actually the master of the Red Tower, known for his dominating power. The tower specializes in their philosophy of strongly ruling everything. That's also why they became ruthless executors who had extreme ambition. Even in his past life, Hansung ended up being tortured by the mages of the Red Tower at some point. Marquis Eurus greets the genius prodigy that has become the talk of the empire. He even highlights the exaggerated claims of the young master wiping out 1,000 orcs. Dale takes all these compliments with a smile and wishes the Marquis to enjoy the evening. Shortly afterwards, he finds himself outside to catch some air. Like always, Bro is a triple S-class introvert who hates being around people. In fact, he's more interested in training right now than celebrating. Then there's the risk of people discovering her identity on his birthday, especially with questionable nobles already spying on him. Suddenly, the young master hears a woman scream. He also hears a man attempting to take advantage of the maid. Acting quickly, this guy kicks off to find out what happened. Turns out a poor maid of House Saxon is being assaulted by a fat fuck who can't keep his hands to himself. This scumbag has the gall to pull a knife on her, threatening to take her life. There's no one around to help the maid either, especially when they're all busy enjoying the party. Dale arrives just in time and catches the creep red-handed. The young master's unexpected arrival terrifies this red-haired fatasse. The kid walks up to the snarky noble, who has the gall to offer a learning experience to the Duke's son. He wants to use the maid as a demonstration material to show the kid how grown-ups make love. Dale is thoroughly pissed off and points his finger at the noble. He assures his maid that she'll be out of this mess soon, and charges his magic circle with mana. The young master knows that this world follows a strict ranking hierarchy, so one could never even imagine him trying to lead an attack. Dale shoots the ice bullet, which merely traces past the noble's face, scaring him enough to fall on his ass. Even with the hierarchy, the young master refuses to abandon his morals, even though he ended up assaulting a noble serving the emperor here by giving him a nice scratch on his face. The noble confronts the young master's reckless actions, but Dale is done playing the reasoning game with a pig. Just like the animal he is, he orders the man to get on his knees. The noble tries to defy the order, only for our boy to roar it once more. Like father, like son, Dale humiliates the noble by ordering him to get on his knees and apologize to the maid. The scumbag is stunned with the boy's audacity and politely reminds the young master that he's a representative of the empire. He even insults the maid, calling her a lowborn, and how his kneeling would be an insult to the emperor. Dale corners him and sarcastically asks if the emperor loves fiddling with women in his courtroom as well. The remark is so insulting that the noble shouts at Dale. Unexpectedly, the Duke arrives as well as the other nobles. Lord Crimson is entertained by the sight and drops commentary just to get on the Duke's nerves. Dale's father erupts in anger, roaring at his son. The young master announces that this man assaulted the maid of House Saxon. It's especially disappointing that his father doesn't even side with his own son here and maintains the respect of Lord Petro by siding with him. Dale continues to threaten the snotty noble to stay down. It seems that he doesn't care about his father's commands. Instead, the boy stands up to the Duke, exclaiming how their guests are supposed to act with integrity, even from the royal court. But this red-haired creepshow instead broke all vows to assault a maid, putting disrespect on House Saxon. That's why he couldn't just let the scumbag escape so easily. Hearing all of this, Lord Crimson breaks his silence. He actually sides with the young master, expressing that it is shameful to assault a lowborn maid of all things. To punish Petro, Marquis Eurus ignites a flame and declares his intentions of grilling him alive. The helpless insect makes a run for it, begging for mercy. But the master of the Red Magic Tower is a ruthless man, and his flames spare no one. They make way to Petro, scorching his body as he writhes in agony. The noble is eviscerated to ashes, while Eurus commends the boy for speaking the truth, as it is the only way to expunge the moles of the royal family. Lord Crimson is especially looking forward to Dale's future, but it only goes to show just how threatening this man's strength truly is. With time, the commotion faded. The nobles from the royal court subsided and left House Saxon. Time passed, and eventually Eve came to wake up the young master from his sleep. He thanked her for helping him out, but Eve felt flustered and her face showed sadness. Dale asks her what's up, causing the maid to thank him for his bravery. She feels truly grateful to serve him, but that's not all she wants to say, and the young master can see it on her face. Thanks to his experience having dealt with 2 worlds, he can tell when people are hiding something. Dale thanks her casually, recalling that as the eldest son of the family, he must act with integrity, so long as it will serve his goals of destroying the empire. By the way, his father summoned him quickly to his office. He's starting to feel off about Dale's recent behavior, questioning the boy's decisions. In an effort to understand the Duke, Dale asks what's wrong. He whips out a fun fact, expressing how the hero who came from the other world ended up suffering death alongside Bardell. If that did not happen, it was clear that the next hero would have emerged from House Saxon. This fact literally puts his father to a jolt of shock, and he denies such a claim. Dale answers forwardly of his conviction, reflecting that he actually heard about the Empire's scheme against House Saxon in his previous life. The Empire intentionally backstabbed Hansung the hero, knowing that he would become an obstacle if he fell to the opposite side. Despite Hansung convincingly defeating the Demon King and bringing peace to the world, the Empire failed to eliminate the Demon King's domain. Instead of working on eliminating the domain, they began cultivating it into a personal territory. They even sought sacrifices from the Saxon Duchy cavalry to help with their cause, and offered the land to the Duke. Their worries will never end, especially when the evil of that land hasn't been cleansed. What's more is that the reputation of the house is revered with an evil perception. People call them the House of Darkness. The Empire abandoned their own hero, and will eventually act against House Saxon to eliminate any threats. Dale's sudden confession of the Empire abandoning the hero stuns his father. He highlights that these are his personal deductions, but in reality, he's speaking from the truth of what he lived. In official records, it states that the hero died fighting the Divine Sword. The Duke is flabbergasted with the boy's depth of knowledge, because only a few people know about the truth of the hero's death. Dale forwards his theory, claiming that if he's right, the Empire is planning to fuck them over eventually as well. They're an oppressing force that slowly takes over weak nations. The 10-year-old's words of wisdom leave his father speechless. Seeking the boy's wisdom, he asks the kid for his advice for their next move. Dale points out one simple fact: the Empire can never cooperate or coexist with the Empire. The only logical conclusion? Annihilate the Empire before it annihilates their house. Now that's a bombshell his pops wasn't expecting at all. Hearing such provocative words, the Duke channels a tone of seriousness in his words, questioning if the boy understands the weight of his ridiculous suggestion. The young master confesses that he isn't asking for an immediate rebellious army to take over the Empire. Instead, he scopes out the future for 10 years. The current state of resistance groups is alarming enough for the Empire. Then there are vassals like the Duke, who already fear the Empire backstabbing their house. Then there's the corrupt state of the economy and the rise of bandits. Eventually, by 10 years' time, there will be enough groups and forces that would ally themselves with House Saxon in a combined effort to destroy the Empire. Dale fully discussed every inch of his plan with his father for hours until the sun set. Finally, he asked for the Noir Duke's thoughts. First, he was speechless, and then this guy began laughing. He laughed the freest laugh in the world, admitting how proud he was of his son's talents. It was clear to him that his son could see perspectives even though he couldn't. The Duke wanted to treat the boy as something more than his son. In fact, he officially dubbed the boy as his one true heir, the man destined to lead House Saxon in his place someday. Dale is proud of his achievements too. He had worked long and hard for this day to come. The future of him being able to manipulate the house to his will was now in sight. The boy's father gave him full permission to say anything, allowing him to influence the family's decisions. Dale knew that he was now standing shoulder to shoulder against his pops. His first order? It's a request to take the tower trial in Necropolis. Make no mistake, this isn't an easy trial. It's a game that determines a person's rank among other competing mages and the guardians of the magic tower. Beating higher level guardians raises your rank even higher until eventually one can earn the rank of an elder of the tower. The people who overcome it at the very top are granted the title of the Magic Tower Master. The Duke is fine with this decision, but he fears for his son's life. The tower poses a risk to anyone who challenges it, especially when Dale hasn't completed his third circle yet. The boy speaks with conviction that he'll soon topple the third circle. Normally, this is only obtainable for a mage in their 20s. Even for a genius prodigy like Dale, it won't be an easy task. But the kid is adamant on choosing this decision for the sake of his house. First, he will conquer the tower trial and prove his strength in front of the world. This way, nobody will be able to question Dale's authority as the heir to the throne. The Duke realizes that his son is cunning and wants to maintain a stunning reputation in front of the world. Smiling, he entrusts Dale with his judgment, inviting a joyful expression from our boy. A few days after this discussion, we arrive in the City of Death. Escorted to the city, the Duke of Saxon exits the carriage, who is greeted respectfully by all. Alongside him is his mini-version, Dale, who realizes that he's about to get his ass kicked because of this difficult challenge. The people here are already singing praises of the Duke's son, the young master who has unrivaled potential in the Empire. Some are bickering about the boy, doubting his capabilities. They even call Dale's abilities a joke, unable to believe that this kid is on the level of the Knights of the Cavalry. Velik, the graduate of the Academy, thinks he's tough shit and a favorite to win the trial. The Duke and his son are welcomed by Eris, an escort and an elder of the tower. She takes care of all administrative duties in the absence of the Noir Duke. Dale's father tells our boy that she's going to be looking after him throughout the trial. Dale follows Eris and learns about the 59 other Academy graduates who are about to take this trial alongside him. Unveiling the arena, she shows him the candidates who are going to act as his competitors. It's a gigantic coliseum, housing impressive candidates. Next, Eris goes up to formally greet the contestants. She's the host, so it's her role to explain the first tier of the trial, starting off by explaining the purpose of the life necklace. The trial will basically be conducted in a battle royale format, where life points will determine winners and losers. The necklace will protect the wearer from a spell's true damage, but if a candidate is properly hit by an opponent's spell, the necklace will activate its shield and basically confirm the candidate's elimination. In other words, one good and your opponent is knocked out of the tournament. The attacker who wins the strike gains a new point for their own necklace. Any person with 3 or more points will reach the next tier of the tower. Finally, there won't be any use of artifacts during the trial, which means our boy can't cheat his way using his all-powerful cloak. Dale contemplates on the rules and realizes it's the easiest way to take out the trash contestants in the first round. His eyes drift to his side, where a bunch of candidates are calling him a monster for achieving the third circle at the mere age of 10. They've already set their sights on taking out the young master first. Some of them even mock him, wondering if they're allowed to abuse a child during the tournament. As competitors in the same tournament, they will have to eliminate him. Dale simply smiles. Bro is ready to catch all the smoke. The moment the trial begins, those closest to Dale instantly target our boy. One candidate erupts a dark spell and resurrects a corpse in front of him. The same goes for the other candidates who are all using corpses to attack. An entire platoon of them is now jumping the young master. Dale awaits the first strike, as one of the zombies slashes at him with his sword. The attack is shockingly deflected, all thanks to our boy's conjured undead of his own. In fact, this thing has the iconic Wolverine claws too. This undead creature is larger and fiercer than the rest. Its aura emits the water attribute, freezing the surrounding monsters. It's at this moment these losers realize that they were actually dealing with a dual elemental mage. Dale's monster slashes at the frozen undead soldier. One of his opponents tries to target him from his blind spot, only for Dale's undead to step right in and block the damage for him. Thanks to the ice armor on its back, there's actually no damage incurred. Retaliating, Dale's soldier smashes another monster with a clean hit. The same loser who was talking hit earlier about him suddenly starts calling our boy a cheater for using the water element. The so-called top graduate expresses that only necromancy magic is allowed in this competition. A confident Dale expresses that there's nothing in the rulebooks that prevents him from strengthening his monsters with other types of magic. So far, no one has disqualified him, which means Eris has allowed his usage of water attribute. Cornered with logic, the loser and his friends send all 3 of their soldiers to tackle Dale at once. With so many of them attacking at one point, their strategy is to overwhelm the young master with sheer numbers. Unfortunately, Dale can't use a single artifact in this situation, so he considers his options before the zombies tear him to shreds. Using his one and final method, the young master launches himself into battle, dashing beyond all 3 zombies. Next, he aims for another one with a sword, and quickly dodges its first attack. With the blade pinned, Dale enforces his punch with dark magic and hammers a powerful fist against the creature's arm. This helps him free the sword and eventually dice the creature into pieces. The losers are at a loss for words. They were witnessing a mere brat cut up towering giants like nothing. Dale even helped reinforce the bone sword to increase its durability. With this newly powered and upgraded weapon, he sets sights on his next target. The undead soldier smashes the ground, but misses the young master, who pounces right up top for an aerial descent. Giving it everything he's got, Dale shish kebabs the shit out of this guy. You guys should see the look on this loser's face, who is humiliated after his soldiers were wiped out. With the soldiers killed, Dale easily dashes up to the candidates and secures clean hits on all of them. Finally, it's the blonde punk that's left, cornered by a child who is not only a dual mage, but also a capable swordsman. Our boy takes great joy raising his sword, moments away from stabbing him. This guy even starts begging the young master to spare him, but our boy doesn't really give a damn, especially when he can kill him without really killing him in the trial. The sword smacks his head and leaves it swelled up. With the arena taken down, Dale eradicates every single combatant and achieves 60 life points all on his own. Eyeing the audience, he hopes for them to watch his every move as he dominates the trial. The second floor is to defeat the guardian creatures called the flesh golems. These things are nasty and tower over contestants with a durable build. Normally, at this level, the survivors cooperate to beat the boss on the second floor. Except there's one problem. Our boy eliminated them all. Now he's got a one-on-one fight with Gorlock the Destroyer. Different from the rules of the first stage, our boy can openly use all forms of magic at this level. He still won't be able to use an artifact, but that won't be needed anyway. The golem is minutes away from smashing our boy, while the young master intends to test the limits of the third circle he recently acquired. One fist obliterates the arena, and the ugly golem smirks in its victory. But then a realization of horror looms over him, as his hands are burned with purplish flames. The golem is confused, while the 10-year-old young master unleashes his newest ability, Accelerated Decay. The Duke and Eris are both surprised by Dale's decision. For instance, he could have easily destroyed the golem's arm instead of letting it rot. Internalizing his thoughts, Dale reveals that when he fought monsters as the hero Hansung, his main strategy to defeat them was called biochemical warfare. Over time, the creature is reduced to a pool of wasted remains. The golem is done for, even with a simple point of contact. The same biochemical warfare is now an important part of his black magic arsenal. Well, Dale ends up blitzing through the exam, defeating all 10 tiers and setting a new record. Then, he was actually granted 4 days to rest until the 11th trial. Aside from him, the rest of the losers who entered the competitions now had to undergo a retrial procedure. The 59 candidates could participate to earn their place back again. That same night, Dale finds himself staring at the fountain when his teacher Sophia comes out of the blue, congratulating him for doing superbly. He credits her for his own success, a confession that makes her really proud. But get the titanium truckload balls of this kid, he freaking asks his own damn teacher on a date. The elf is intimidated by our boy's riz. In reality, he was actually wanting to go to the city festival with her. Sophia agrees to the request, while he celebrates with happiness. Her cheeks are pink from the way he asked her out still, wondering if the little boy has any idea of what a date even is. In reality, Bro is internally laughing, knowing that he messed with her head. Let's go up to the festival in the city of the dead. Sophia and Dale share a walk. The young master seems to be fine even after his arduous trial. He's enjoying the 3 days of rest he gained too. After walking in silence for a bit, Dale and Sophia appreciate the gorgeous full moon. By the way, calling the moon beautiful in Japanese culture is treated as a way of saying, I love you. Anyway, the young master struggles to spark conversation with his teacher, and at the same time, he finds himself at ease. He has always felt safe in her hands. She's the only person who trusted him from the very beginning. Some parts of him even yearn to draw closer to her. I don't know about you guys, but damn, this is going in an unexpected direction. Before Dale broke past his third circle stage, he contemplated on his teacher's guidance to confront his inner world. The only way to surpass his limits was to go beyond the limits of mana overflow for his second circle. It's only after enduring the pain of mana rampage that he would finally access the power of the third. But that also became a huge hurdle for our boy. He always remembered the sting of betrayal, but then found himself transported to an empty space of frozen white. Hansung was experiencing his true inner world in meditation, a world of realization where he needed to confront his fears. His inner world has always lacked substance, a hollow domain where no one could help him. Sophia became the first person to truly connect with him on a deeper level. Bro is straight up calling her the light of his world. 10-year-old Riz is going crazy over here. In a shocking turn of events, Dale confesses his feelings for his master. Yeah, unlike the whole shit show with protagonists taking a gazillion years to confess their feelings, this kid did it in a single chapter. Sephia is seriously frightened by the implication of his words. But this boy is going all the way. Bro is repeating his words, emphasizing that he likes her truly. In some way, the elf takes it as an act of endearment and embraces him. It's a love of a student for his teacher, so she returns his feelings the same. It's funny because inside his head, our boy is actually loving the cheat codes of his second life. As more days passed, the rest period subsided. Dale arrived on the 11th trial, huffing and puffing. The fucking hilarious part is that this man actually meant it when he said he loves her, like in an actual romantic way. It pisses him off that she took it as a childish confession. Dale confronts the trial and leaves his love life for later. He's in a one-on-one matchup this time. The young master's opponent is a third circle mage, Albert Rosenheim, and he isn't planning on pulling any breaks for a kid. The best part about this stage is that it allows the use of artifacts, even mage strategies. The necklace won't be guaranteeing anyone's safety this time either. With all restrictions gone, our boy is planning to curb stomp any person who stands before him. The duel begins, and the moment it does, Albert detonates a point-blank explosion. He reminds the young master that he isn't an amateur like all the others he faced. His next attack is called the Dark Arrow, which actually reminds me of Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon from the Fate franchise. Our boy is unscathed, by the way, all thanks to his fancy cloak, but the arrows might pose a real problem. Albert drops those arrows like explosive scatter bombs, eviscerating the arena. Meanwhile, Dale leaps away to dodge all of them, gaining enough distance to prevent damage. The thing is, this guy genuinely made a clear violation of the rules when he launched his first attack the second the duel started. But the fact that neither Eris nor any other judge intervened suggests that they're actually interested in finding out the young master's strength. That's part of the reason why he hates the shit out of these mages. Albert enjoys taking control and acts like Temusung Jinwoo, summoning his undead creations. Bro is out here delivering an edgy monologue, acting like he summoned Baru or something. Even Dale is cringing at the mere announcement. At the same time, this guy isn't a joke. His soldiers are faster too, cornering Dale with their attacks. Posing as an edgy third-rate corny-ass anime villain, Albert enjoys forcing Dale to dodge constantly without being able to retaliate. However, our boy actually uses some of his spells at the right moment, knocking down all 3 soldiers at once. The unimpressed Albert mocks the kid for being trash. He had already laid a secret trap inside his zombies, a spell known as the Death Explosion. The same soldiers combusted in a purple force, knocking the young master flying. This grown-ass man is announcing his cringe-worthy victory over a 10-year-old child. His expectations are humbled when he notices that Dale has completely disappeared. Only his voice can be heard, a voice that dubs him pathetic for cheating against a child. Helpless, he searches around to find him. Dale escapes into the shadows, reappearing from behind, commenting on Albert's confused state. He even praises the third circle mage for his hidden sneak attack, one that Dale escaped using his wraith transformation. Our boy confidently declares that such a sneaky tactic won't be enough to beat him. As for Albert, he's already ensnared in shadow vines, ready to feast on his flesh. They're begging for Dale's permission to devour him, while the young master watches with a smile on his face. The entity of the darkness manifests with enormous gaping teeth after gaining permission to eat. Spectators watching are struck horrified as the creature tangles Albert with its vines before gangbanging his body. Begging to be spared, Albert is granted release upon his defeat. With him sent to sleep, Dale is officially declared the winner of the duel. He exits the arena, curiously awaiting his next opponent. His competitors are so damn terrified that they surrender immediately. From round 3 and beyond, Dale earned free victories without having to fight at all. All of them withdrew from their matches except one last fight. During the trial, the young master honed his excellence over the 3 magic circles. By the time he reached tier 20, he met an impressive opponent at last. Meet the most aura-inducing undead on the planet, the Headless Knight. This creature is actually a creation of one of the Elders of the Tower. It's a powerful creature unlike anything our boy has faced before. In fact, he's being hailed as an opponent not even the young master can defeat. Dale loves surprises and plot twists, so he's waiting to see what would happen. His command over the dark, his dominating darkness control intimidates everyone. The same Headless Knight that attempted to challenge him, it is now kneeling to serve its new master. Bro folded without even any pressure. The young master watched the knight plagued in his inner world. A sword twists in his chest, as the knight instantly ends its own life. The fight is over. The knight literally couldn't withstand betraying its previous master, so it ended its own life. Dale is taking so much enjoyment in the present scene that he completely forgot about the reactions of those around him. These people were left speechless. They had never seen a creature of the dark behave in such a manner. This was a direct confirmation that the 10-year-old had strength comparable to an elder of the tower. Dale walks with pride, having proven himself in the eyes of others. While he's heading back, the rest of the people wonder about his next move. If he goes back from here, that means he won't be able to ascend further. But the young master actually doesn't want to pursue the end of the trial at all. He already achieved his purpose, and if he went beyond this level, he would threaten his life against terrifying monsters. The trial thus concluded eventually. Upon his exit, Duke Saxon and his son walked with the people, showing supreme respect. The mages treated the boy like an equal, and thanks to his dominating results, Dale's existence began to unite the territories in the north. In other parts of the dukedom, a knight is currently slaughtering monsters. The cavalry is fighting its hardest, the young master. Right after completing the tower trial, Dale was assigned command of an orc extermination squad to lead. It was considered a duty complex and well beyond the ability of a 10-year-old. But this kid was never doubted, never even once. They saw him as the rightful heir, the one who reunited the strength in the north. Bro is out here acting like Jon Snow or some shit. After the mission, Dale returns to his father, revealing that they had slaughtered nearly 150 orcs. As for the casualties sustained, there were none except for minor injuries. Boggled, the Duke questions if the boy used magic to help aid them, but Dale denies any such usage. Instead, he credits the cavalry for their swords in defeating the monsters. Proud, the Duke praises his son, while Commander Helmet is seriously impressed by the 10-year-old's ability to command groups of his own. In reality, Helmet is the one who actually educated the boy on military strategy and swordsmanship, so the young master was really learning from the best here. Helmet realized that it wasn't going to be long until they fought proper territorial wars. The thought of these wars excited Dale, who wanted a new challenge for himself. It's been a while, so let's revisit Charlotte's progress, who is faster than ever in fighting our boy. The rapier wielder's precise strikes are harder to dodge, but Dale capitalizes on his chances to retaliate. She still defends properly, while Dale overwhelms her with a flurry of charges. Even in his straightforward charge, her sudden stab surprises him. Charlotte's fighting abilities improved fast, but she still thought she was inferior to him. He is currently a third circle mage, someone who even crossed the 20th tier of the tower. People championed the achievements of the young master, to the point even Charlotte got tired of hearing all about him. Dale laughs and assures the blonde young lady that her time will come, that she's destined to become stronger. In fact, she was impressed by him already compared to the normal 10-year-old. Charlotte took it as a demeaning remark, and didn't like the fact that he treated her like a kid. Hilariously, Dale admits to her that he's already an adult, something she takes as a light joke. Post-training, our boy shares a table across from his uncle. Sir Helmet teaches him a new tactic called the hammer and anvil. During battle between two forces, the cavalry force's objective is to tear through the enemy's surroundings in order to corner them from every direction. The infantry in this case defends the attack. The hammer and anvil tactic earns its name because it relies heavily on the cavalry's offensive ability. Meanwhile, Dale internalizes the similarities of war in both worlds. Interrupting their lecture, the young master asks for an update on Charlotte's training. This gets the knight thinking for a response. Even though she doesn't hold a candle to Dale's talent, on her own, she's a force to be reckoned with. Having established her foundation, she is on track to inherit aura cultivation. But there is one major concern in all of this. Dale already knows what his uncle is talking about. It has to do with Charlotte's rapier style compared to their cavalry swordsmanship. You see, mages are supposed to refine magic circles, but knights refine via cultivation techniques and aura. Mages create magic towers. Knights form orders by passing on techniques. The Black Cavalry of Noir can be compared to war chariots. Their main combat style is to crush enemy forces in any battlefield, relying heavily on raw firepower. That's the issue, because the girl's sword technique relies on speed instead of strength. Her sword is flexible and free, but thanks to her talent, she might make it among the ranks of the 7 swordmasters, but won't go much farther than that. She won't ever compare to the caliber of the first sword, the strongest man to ever hold a sword, the divine knight Bardel himself, Charlotte's father. Unfortunately, the lost art of the Sword of Blossom is no longer with them, but it fell upon the fall of the Knight Nation during the war. Dale wonders if it has truly been vanquished from this world. After this discussion, the young master's training received a kick-up in difficulty. He had to balance multiple responsibilities, and his reputation grew because of it. Finally, the important hour had come for him to demonstrate the fruits of his progress. One day, the Duke learns about an invitation for a territorial war by Baron Parker. The noble wants to challenge part of Duke Noir's mines. Dale knows that the borders of this world were practically ambiguous, unlike the modern world we're used to. At the same time, the fact that a low-tier noble decided to challenge a high-ranking one seemed crazy to him. But there's a secret to that too. Count Brandenburg has actually sided with Baron Parker's claim. He even sent a letter, insultingly stating that he would help the Duke if they surrendered some of the profits of the mine. Dale is ticked off, and ecstatic that this idiot hasn't yet forgotten about the humiliation ritual he received by his father that day. The young master is thrilled to give Brandenburg a proper reminder again. Since the day of his humiliation, it was difficult for Brandenburg to digest the humiliation, so instead he chose to settle the affair using another low noble beefing with the Duke. Disgusted, the young master volunteers to command this battle via the knights, only to be met with immediate refusal by his father. The Duke thinks the boy is far too inexperienced for this fight. In fact, he even scolds Dale from saying foolish things, because a conflict between people was much different than one with monsters. Next, the Duke assures Baron Greenbelt that he will offer protection of his territory. Be that as it may, our boy is saddened by the refusal. Later that day, he exhausts himself in front of Sir Helmet, wondering why his father thinks he's incapable of handling a mission like that. Helmet advises him not to pay attention to the Duke's words, because he must have his personal reasons for doing this. Aside from that, the Knight Commander has brought a gift for the boy. It's a chessboard. We're about to create the next Magnus Carlsen here, folks. The funny thing is, this game is different from the game of chess that Dale is familiar with in his previous world. It's called a war game, and it relates to strategies in actual warfare. Helmet knows that it's got a bunch of complicated rules. He intends to teach the boy all of them, but the young master quickly grabs it and runs off. Dale's mood shifted from sadness to excitement. He brings the board to his father. The goal? He's going to face him in a game of strategy, and if Dale wins, he's going to lead the territorial war for their family. The boy is rebellious even after the Duke told him to stay out of the affair. Dale argues that war is a clash of minds instead of a test of strength. That's why he wants his father to evaluate him thoroughly in a single match. The invitation is bold. Sir Helmet jumps in and wants to de-escalate the situation, but the Duke suddenly stops him. He actually accepts Dale's challenge, earning his smile, and if his son loses, he won't participate in the war. The game of strategy between the two begins. Helmet watches them exchange blows against each other. His face literally drops in shock upon Dale's ultimate victory, who has cornered the Duke in the game. Even though the Duke actually handicapped himself with some of his pieces, it's impressive enough that Dale managed to win 2 matches against his father. Now that he's won, the young master earns the right to participate in the territorial war. He even reveals that he learned about the game many years ago by studying it in a library, but this was a clear-cut lie. Dale didn't know a damn thing about it. But it's the only way he could have salvaged this situation without appearing strange. With his defeat, the Duke intends to keep his promise, rewarding his son with full control of the knights in the upcoming fight. Even Sir Helmet thinks this is too much. Despite the outcome, Dale's father reminds him that he won't accept the prospect of defeat. That's why he asks his son one last time if he's truly prepared to face the upcoming war. The young master loudly assures that he'll prove his words. His father anticipates great progress from him. Time passes as we arrive at the quarters of Count Brandenburg. He's roaring at the top of his lungs after hearing that the young master will lead the knights of his house. Here's when we get to see his son, who is a drunk dumbass. Bro is the definition of being smooth-brained. As the eldest son of Brandenburg, he assures his father victory against the brat of Saxon. Slamming his fist on the table, the Count scolds his wasted sperm of a son that this kid is way beyond a 10-year-old brat. In fact, he's a monster who far exceeds the likes of an idiot like him. Brandenburg is seething on the inside, regretting his inability to secure Charlotte sooner. He does, however, put his son in charge of the knights for the battle to come. Hilariously, he also reminds Philip that he won't be participating in the fight himself. The real leader will be Sir Milva's behind the scenes. The only pathetic spot for Philip will be to stand there and look pretty. With that settled, he instructs Sir Milva's to take his whining son away. Brandenburg really wanted to participate in this battle on his own, but he couldn't allow the world to see him demolishing a child on the battlefield. He knows damn well that Duke Saxon cooked up this strategy for a reason. A few more days passed, and we arrived at Baron Greenbelt's territory. This dude is looking like he's seen a ghost. It's because his savior has arrived in the form of the young master, instead of the help his father promised them. Some of the Baron's knights insultingly wonder if the boy is capable of wielding a sword. Baron Greenbelt laughs off his fears, greeting the young master properly. But deep down, he's shitting his pants, terrified that his saving grace is going to be a mere child leading an order of knights. Greenbelt welcomes the boy inside, but the kid refuses such an offer. Greenbelt is stunned by this refusal, as the young master raises his sword and puts it against the Baron's neck. Dale states that he wants to personally inspect the strength of Greenbelt's forces beforehand, so he cheekily demands a duel with the strongest soldiers under his belt. One man's voice shouts among the group. A red-haired warrior is arrogant to boast his undefeated duel record, but inside, he's actually dying to teach the kid a lesson in humility. Dale shoots him a glare, withdraws his sword from the Baron's neck, and admits that the soldiers of Greenbelt severely underestimate his strength. The young master understands that they're reacting this way because an important fight has been handed to a little child. Plunging his sword, Dale openly accuses the soldiers of being weak. Just like they have their own suspicions, so does he. The only way to resolve their concerns is through a fight, and our boy is dying to face off against this so-called strongest knight, when it's crystal clear that the same punk is drunk to the brim. His words hurt the man's pride, so he quickly draws his sword to meet the boy's challenge. Habak of Greenbelt intends to fight for his Baron's honor, which is the perfect invitation for Dale. Seconds after, they're winding up for their duel. Dale wonders if his opponent has heard any rumors of his strength in battle. Habak surprisingly admits that he already knows about the young master's capabilities. But that's the interesting part, because it makes our boy wonder why this guy is even confident to begin with. He suspects there's a secret weapon up this guy's sleeve. Habak launches at the speed of light matching Dale's sword. To his surprise, he is blocked by a shadowy defense. The knight goes strictly on the offensive first, while Dale is forced in a position to dodge. From the immediate blows, our boy can sense absolutely no aura coming from this guy's weapon. But that's normal because not a lot of knights are capable of using that kind of power to begin with. At the same time, Dale wants to retaliate with all he's got, so he invokes the power of shadows, expunges the knight in a field of black. Habak is surprised, but his fast reflexes allow him to slash the vines. He's in a position where he can't focus on Dale because of his artifact's abilities. The young master continues his assault with more dark magic spells. The disappointing thing is that this guy's abilities are actually mediocre so far, but then something crazy happens. Habak fucking faints. Bro is literally on the ground exhausted. Dale is the one who is terrified right now, unable to believe that the strongest knight is so damn weak. Baron Greenbelt shouts at our boy for eliminating an elite level knight right before the start of the battle, but this very remark pisses our boy to hell. Dale questions if this clown has any idea of how terrible his current position even is. At their current level, they can't even operate well in the upcoming fight. He wonders if Greenbelt is going to sit on his ass doing nothing for it. The young master can't even stomach that an elite knight can be so weak, even remarking how the House of Saxon vows to protect others, but that doesn't mean for them to neglect their own responsibilities. With this revelation, he declares that the knights of his family will be replacing Greenbelt's forces. He's got a choice to make now. The Baron could either follow him, or he could choose his own destruction. The rest of the knights quickly got on their knees, swearing loyalty to Dale's leadership. In the next scene, we're brought back to the House of Saxon. Lady Elena is out here worried sick for her child's safety, while the Duke assures her that things will be fine because of their talented son. Dale's future looks so bright that the Duke can already guarantee his success in the future. Bro thinks his child is going to rule the world, but currently the kid is having a headache of the 9,000th level. He thought the people outside the duchy would be just as brilliant as him, but as it turns out, they're just a bunch of weaklings. Then there's the Holy Knight, who definitely knew about the state of the Greenbelt barony and intentionally suggested it as a target. The following day, Mr. Elite Knight Habak is carrying a gigantic boulder, begging to stop training. But the Knights of Noir are not quite done. They're molding these weaklings into capable soldiers for the upcoming battle. Habak is such a bitch that he complains endlessly. Dale instructs Sir Vale to focus on teaching these clowns from the ground up. He also wants a messenger to enter the Perker barony to forward negotiations. Dale is actually uninterested in last-minute peace terms. It's just that a part of him is dying to see Brandenburg's shitty face before the fight. Dale's people worked fast. They established a secure negotiation site located at the border between the warring baronies. Inside the agreed-upon location, Dale patiently awaits. By his estimation, this whole thing will come crashing down in a few weeks at most. The Knight Order of St. Magdalena had already embarked on a long-distance march covering half the continent. Given how poor their supply situation is, they're highly likely to launch a preemptive strike in hopes of ending the feud immediately. Baron Parker might be a slimy son of a gun, but his knightly forces are not to be underestimated. Finally, Lord Philip, eldest son of Count Brandenburg and commander of the opposing army, had come to discuss terms on neutral grounds. Dale expected that he would have to speak with these people. He already clocked Philip as a hollow figurehead. They wrapped him up in fancy armory, but he's of no importance in reality. The man standing behind him, Sir Milvas, is the real deal, the actual commander of this battle. Even so, Dale opened the conversation with tact and respect, but Philip did not reciprocate. He scoffed and took this invitation to negotiate as a sign of weakness on the kid's side. Philip mocked that the little brat must have pissed himself in the face of a real war between men. Maintaining his decorum and ignoring the blatant insults, Dale asked the fool why he agreed to open a dialogue on neutral grounds. When Philip tried to answer and waste more of his precious time, Dale implored the pisshead to shut the hell up and let the real ones do the talking. Dale won't be addressing the puppet shoved into the role of the battle's figurehead. He wants to have a productive conversation with the real commander instead, Sir Milvas the Pure Sword. They were careful not to leak any info, but Dale read their hierarchy like a book. If you have half a brain, it's easy to figure this out. The Holy Swordsman would never entrust command of an entire battlefield to a dud with not even the slightest shred of talent. Knowing Philip, Milvas tried to defuse the situation before the pisshead's insecurity cost them dearly. The fact that Count Brandenburg considers his son a disgrace is a secret known only to a handful of inside men. Yet here's a kid, effectively rage-baiting Philip using insider information. Dale smugly asked Philip how it felt to be Daddy's little punching bag his whole life. Commander Milvas finally asserted that negotiations are over. They no longer have any reason to continue disrespectful discussions. Philip wanted so badly to let emotions take over and clap back, but he could not find the words. All he could do was sit there and fume. Dale knows that he can keep poking and rage-baiting. He asked if the so-called Commander Philip needs permission from his babysitter to speak. The way he lowers his head to receive orders from a soldier boy makes him look like a slave. Perhaps that's befitting of the firstborn of a count's house nowadays. By the way, Dale sees Philip's arrangement. It's like a dog putting a leash on its master. Milva's tried to keep Pisshead calm and reasonable, but it was too late. The rage bait was way too effective. Philip has been brutally humiliated, and he wants to feel like a big man again. Dale simply sat back and relaxed while the hollow commander chewed out the real one. When the situation asks for it, he would chime in, calling Philip the holy swordsman's puppet. To make Philip angrier, Dale pointed out that instead of being Daddy's little puppet, it seems like Sir Milva's is the one holding the strings. Dale's whole rage bait tactic was evidently effective. In just a few words, he disrupted the enemy's command. He never intended to negotiate with these people to begin with. He turned to trusty Sir Bale to clear out and step outside for a moment. Without anyone else on his side, he asked Philip to speak with him privately, without any external interruption. A conversation between two highest-ranking commanders who truly bear the responsibility for this battle. Philip clicked his tongue, but he didn't want to be seen as a puppet. He agreed to a private discussion and implored Sir Milva's to get the hell out of the room at once. Milva's tried to appeal to his sensibilities, but the pride of a spoiled brat is a tough thing to go against. Philip believes that handling the mouthy brat from House Saxon is his responsibility. Sir Milva's could see that Dale had completely taken over, but he could do nothing about it. With just the two commanders present, Dale assumed a more respectful tone as he brought up terms and conditions once more. He implied that he has something of value that can persuade Philip to back off. Dale laid out that if the Knight Order of St. Magdalena withdraws from battle immediately, House Saxon will provide all supplies necessary for the return journey. Anyone with half a brain could see how disrespectful that term is. Dale blurted it out with a smile on his face. He even apologized if his earlier words were offensive. If Philip refuses to pass down the mandate to withdraw, his entire army will be annihilated, and hundreds of knights will be taken prisoner. Moreover, Dale will smear the Holy Swordsman's reputation in dirt. His name will be dragged through filth. This is the son's final chance to save his father and to maintain a shred of dignity. Philip laughed at Dale's absurd threats. He insisted that Sir Milva's was right all along. This negotiation is intended to make a mockery of him from the start. Throughout the whole exchange, the 10-year-old boy maintained perfect control. What a shame. This was Philip's last chance to at least keep his fake tough guy reputation. When the battle is inevitably lost, Dale reminded Pisshead of who will bear the blame. It certainly won't be Sir Milva's the commander. The man who'll have to bite the bullet will be the incompetent, utterly useless firstborn of the Count. Despite all the warnings, Philip refused to believe that he'd lose. He thinks the little brat won't be smirking for too long. Soon he will score the dub, and he'll prove himself before everyone present. Dale could only hope this guy could keep his confidence for as long as he could. As expected, the negotiations collapsed. Shortly after, Dale returned to the Greenbelt Barony. From a hidden watchtower, Sir Milva's kept an eye on the enemy's movements. They just confirmed that the Knights of House Saxon have begun mobilizing. Milva's is a veteran of many battlefields. He could sense that the young master of House Saxon was a different beast. Those eyes and that composure are not those of a beginner. It's tough to admit it, but that 10-year-old kid is not an opponent they should underestimate. On the bright side, this is the perfect opportunity to cull an enemy that will become even more formidable as time goes on. Sir Milva's feels a strong drive to nip the problem in the bud. Today, they will teach that loudmouth brat the meaning of silence. Clad in his new armor, Lord Dale received reports that the enemy's main forces had begun moving. Sitting in his armored steed, the boy raised his blade and faced his men. Addressing the swords of House Saxon, the time to spill their enemy's blood has come. Today, led by their 10-year-old commander, the Black Cavalry roared. The trumpet of war roared, and the Black Cavalry made their spirited advance. They crossed swords with the opposing army, and Sir Milva's joined the front lines with his jousting spear. The advance of the 1st Cavalry Battalion is often the most intense. Both sides will undoubtedly sustain some damage. For the opposing side, the key to this battle is stopping the Nightcrow Knight Order of House Saxon. Their firepower is hard to gauge right from the get-go. To prevent any unforeseen accidents, Milva's deliberately positioned Philip towards the center of the formation, away from the front lines. Moreover, Baron Parker's forces were stationed on the left wing as support, tying down the mediocre Greenbelt Knight Order. During that time, Sir Milva's will lead Count Brandenburg's elite troops to strike the Nightcrow Knights from the flank. With the center and left wings containing the enemy assault, he should have a clear shot forward with a straightforward strategy. In the heat of the battle, his experience shines in keeping morale high. Surrounded and suffocated, the Nightcrows immediately felt the heat, given that their supporting troops were tied up elsewhere. The knights who were adept at horseback combat clashed. From the looks of it, elite forces on both sides are evenly matched. Sticking out like a sore thumb in the middle of the battlefield, a little boy with dark hair led from the front. As soon as the infantrymen saw the child, they were invigorated with the feeling of safety. Young Master Dale might be small in stature, but his presence covers the entire field. When it comes to hyping up his men to stand their ground, he might be the best 10-year-old in existence for the job. For the sake of House Saxon, he served as the tip of the spear, unwavering and sharp. Sir Milvas watched the golden boy lead from the front lines and was admittedly impressed. They showed their hand. They intend to settle this with a direct clash between the main forces from the very start. The kid is willingly making himself a juicy bait, something that an ordinary commander would never dare to attempt. This is exactly what Milvas wanted. He doesn't need to lure the head of the monster out in the open. Beckoning the Knight Order of St. Magdalena, he redirected his troops to the only target that matters. In the name of Count Brandenburg, they intend to slaughter that child. It won't be easy though. The Night Crows anticipated that the enemy would try to lock in on their lord. Instead of turtling up, the entire army charged forth instead. The clash between the two Knight Orders quickly became the bloody focal point of the war. Milvas took a few soldiers with him and detached from the main collision to assassinate Dale Saxon. His trusty 1st Cavalry Battalion is comprised of battle-tested veterans. He trusts their ability to end this battle quickly and cleanly. Today, they will live up to their reputation as elites in the name of their beloved Count. Sir Milvas showed how lethal his spear can be, thrusting and killing his way forward. He might have been a bit too overeager. A Night Crow slipped past his detection, threatening him from behind. Milvas gritted his teeth and flexibly turned his blade on the lone Night Crow. It was a bit of a struggle, but he managed to claim the head of the assailant at his flank. Milvas got rid of the immediate threat, but his instincts told him that something was off. Surveying the field, he confirmed that they are overwhelmingly pushing the enemy's elite forces back. The Night Crows were falling, but they were falling far too easily. After sustaining a little bit of damage, they immediately retreat and reform their formation. The Night Crows Milvas knew were supposed to be infamous as destroyers of battlefields, yet here they are, playing passively and cautiously. Something is definitely out of place. Right then and there, he received an urgent message from the left wing. Unable to handle the ongoing assault, Baron Parker's forces are being bulldozed. That's right, the left wing that was supposed to hold the Greenbelt Knights in place without much struggle was being mowed down. Something out of their predictions just occurred. Those Greenbelt fools were actually using aura. Given the immense damage sustained, the soldiers turned to Lord Philip for orders and requests for reinforcements. They reckoned that House Saxon's aura knights had mixed amongst the Greenbelt Knights to break through Baron Parker's defense. Philip was supposed to sit still and look pretty, just waiting to claim the glory, but now he's being forced to make a decision. He was reminded of the boy commander's words. When this battle is lost, the one who will bear the blame will be the incompetent and utterly useless son of the Count. Before he could have the chance to mess things up himself, a messenger from Sir Milvas arrived. Milvas strongly recommends merging the center and rear cavalry with the left wing to reinforce defense. Philip's pride and Dale's mind games kicked in. Pisshead Philip shut the messenger up. Instead of following Sir Milvas's reasonable plan, he demanded a redirection of all rear cavalry to his position. He doesn't want to do this by the book. He wants to strike the right wing instead. Pisshead believes that before Baron Parker's left collapses, he can, and he will kill that damned Saxon brat first. Sir Milvas received word about Philip's dumbass plan, and he felt his blood run cold. He clearly ordered the left wing's bailout, but the worthless brat wanted to play hero, putting the lives of countless knights in jeopardy. Their right wing is already pushing back the enemy's weakened left wing. Additional reinforcements will only serve to clog up their movement and reduce efficiency. But Pisshead Philip is blinded by the thought of striking the enemy commander down. He thinks he's an invincible hero, ignoring all calls for aid, leading to a catastrophic misjudgment. At this rate, the left wing will completely collapse without help, and the main force will be surrounded not long after. Knowing the inevitable collapse of their formation, most of Milvas's officers demanded a retreat order. Thinking that he could still salvage the situation, Milvas stood his ground and refused. He believes that the battle is still winnable. Just like Philip, he's blinded by the desire to crush the child commander himself. The kid's eyes are so certain of victory, it was sickening. In the name of the 1st Cavalry Battalion, Sir Milvas roused his men. Putting their faith in their longtime commander, they awaited their new command. In the middle of the battlefield, they all prayed and asked for St. Magdalena's blessing. They put their lives on the line, protected by Goddess Sistina and the sister goddesses. From this moment, Sir Milvas intends to break through the enemy lines and take Dale Saxon's head. They raised their blades and followed Milvas with blind faith. Look at these grown-ass soldiers chasing after a kid. What happened to shame and honor, dog? Meanwhile, Dale is just letting them catch up little by little, deviously luring them like moths to a flame. On the front lines, an inferior commander's field of vision is always quick to narrow. The weight of war and anxiety can cloud one's judgment. Calmly and slowly, he summoned a bow made of ice and loaded a frozen arrow. Even Sir Milvas, someone with a lot of notches on his belt, cannot escape the mist that dulls a commander's senses. Looking at how surprised Milvas was at the sight of the bow, Dale jokingly asked if this was his first time seeing magic in action. He released the frozen arrow, letting it fly and hit the target. Instead of directly piercing Milvas's flesh, he deliberately shot the horse one of the knights was riding. With the horse out of commission, the knight fell on the ground head first. Everybody heard the gnarly crack. It's rare for specialized archers to fire with that kind of accuracy while riding at full gallop. yet a 10-year-old boy pulled it off like it was nothing. In addition, the spell itself was impressive. Without some serious combination of mounted combat skill and archery, imitating that level of skill is pretty much impossible. Dale wasn't done yet. One kill wasn't enough. From afar, he activated the old bread and butter and tapped into his third circle. He summoned a thorny wall of ice, putting a dangerous gap between him and his pursuers. With the ice wall blocking their path, Milvas and his men were forced to grind to a halt. This also served as a signal for the next phase of Dale's plan. All his hidden troops jumped out of hiding to counterattack. Motivated by the burning desire to protect their young master, the Night Crows poured out from all angles. If need be, they would lay their lives out to shield the young lord. With momentum on their side and the element of surprise bolstering their offensive, the Night Crows pierced through St. Magdalena's first cavalry. Milvas realized that he had just led his boys to their demise like a fool. He could not believe that a little boy outmaneuvered him in a war zone. Those Night Crows were just biding their time for a perfect reversal. On top of his blunder, Pisshead Philip also made the worst possible move. That son of a bitch is currently getting more and more soldiers killed. Because of him, the center forces have been overcrowded on the right flank. The entire front line is now grotesquely twisted out of shape, unable to function as one unit. Sir Milvas was left with only one viable option, one that is equally reckless and high risk. With only his blade and horse, he attempted to bypass the wall of ice separating him from the Golden Boy. He might have committed blunder after blunder, but Milvas is still a competent fighter on his own right. Confronting Dale in a one-on-one setting, he truly believes that he could turn the tide of war by sniping the commander. The kid just looked at him with the same confident, smug smile. At the end of the day, Sir Milvas was outplayed and outmatched even in single combat. Before the sun set, Milvas and the remnants of his cavalry were put in chains. On their knees, little Dale Saxon looked a lot bigger. Dale only pulled off such a clean victory thanks to Milvas's bad habit of overestimating the power of his Aura Knights. The battle doctrines that the Knight Order of St. Magdalena has piled up are sometimes their most fatal weakness. Dale can still remember the jailer who watched over him in his previous life, the holy swordsman who led that very Knight Order. Whether he liked it or not, he ended up seeing a great deal of how the St. Magdalena Knight Order operated. While he was captive, he came to know them as clearly as if he were looking at his own palm. Finally, word about Baron Greenbelt's victory on his side of the field reached Dale. The commander of the left wing, Baron Parker, has also been captured. Dale made sure to twist the knife in Milvas's chest by pointing out how Philip messed everything up. From the very beginning, every piece of the trap was perfectly set and sprung. He modestly added that the battlefield is a chaotic mess, and no one can perfectly foresee what's to come. But in repeated chaos, those who end up courting their own demise only have their own foolishness to blame. In accordance with the great traditions of the Empire, Dale is open to showing mercy to those who beg for their lives for the price of a few gold coins. The 1st Cavalry is a prideful bunch. They immediately protested and refused to buy mercy. They would rather die than lower their heads. Since they wanted to go down this route, Dale snapped his finger and casually killed one of the prideful cavalrymen. After setting a grisly example, he directed his questioning to Sir Milvas. As expected, Milvas lowered his head and bent his knee to the victor. The commander had given up despite his men's dissent. He did not lower his head in fear of death. He's a soldier through and through. Dying on a battlefield would be an honor. Milvas wanted to survive this ordeal so he could warn everyone else of how truly dangerous Dale Saxon is. In an act of preservation, he commanded his men to lower themselves onto the victor. In accordance with the Empire's traditions, they will surrender and demand proper treatment as prisoners of war. Since they'll go as far as kneeling to beg for their lives, then no further provocation will matter, right? Nope. Dale wasn't about to let some old Empire tradition absolve these guys of their sins. With an innocent smile on his face, he assured Milvas that not a single St. Magdalena Knight would survive. Without an ounce of mercy, he passed on the order to massacre everyone. Even the warriors of the Night Crow Knight Order momentarily gasped at their young lord's words. By imperial custom, captured knights should be released upon payment of their ransom. Even so, their master's unyielding voice was law. What proceeded next was a helpless massacre. This solidified the absolute loyalty of the Knights of Saxon. In this field, one man ultimately brought about his own ruin. Refusing to go down pathetically, Milvas grabbed a nearby blade and tried to swing at Dale. Before he could get close enough to attack, a blade stabbed him from the back, halting his beating heart. The Night Crows were ready for any dirty moves. Dale was never in any real danger. As his life slipped through his fingers, Dale left Sir Milvas with a chilling message. The kid asked him if he remembered the hero's death. Dale remembers seeing this man's face the night it happened. Milvas was present when Brandenburg betrayed him. This guy stood there smugly when his lord drove that sword into his back. So Dale once again implored Milvas to remember his death all those years ago. In his final moments, Sir Milvas was struck with a terrifying thought. Did this monster really claw his way back to life? To answer that terrifying possibility, Dale activated his shadow cloak and devoured Milvas. This was just the first part of his sweet revenge. More blood will spill. Only now does he feel even a little bit of relief. Meanwhile, Pisshead Philip is slowly losing his position on the right-wing side. The men he forced to follow him were dropping like flies. When he came to his senses, the battle was already irrevocably lost. His cavalry was utterly crushed, and he just received word that Sir Milvas and the Aura Knights have been killed. The left wing was breached and crumpled long before that. The black cavalry had encircled the main force. He could not shake that kid's gaze and mocking smile. While Philip was having a mental breakdown, his officers were practically begging him to make a decision. Any decision would do. Losing and dying as sitting ducks would be a great shame for any knight. Instead of desperately scrounging for an escape plan, Philip asserted that he would be fighting until the very end like a real knight of the order. His officers warned him that going down this route would only lead them to a path of certain death. With his voice shaking, he issued the order for the final charge. Pisshead Philip was so hated by his men that one of them turned their blade against the incompetent commanding officer. Had the traitor known that this was the end, he would have drunk more. He would have held someone longer. He wanted to die of old age in a bed, not on a battlefield. He's not built for this shit. Back in the woods where the massacre had just concluded, the Night Crows cheered for their young commander. Everything went down according to Dale's plan. Even Philip was captured alive and was dragged to Dale's feet to answer for his foolishness. When put in such a humiliating position, the spoiled firstborn of the Count still held on to his paltry pride. He claimed that Dale might win and the cavalry might break, but they would never be defeated. It's a pretty convincing line for someone who ran away in an attempt to save his own skin. Philip deluded himself into thinking that it's his duty as commander to survive until the very end, even if that means sacrificing a few men. Since the battle is already over, by his logic, there's no need to keep the commander alive anymore. Philip saw the boy draw a sword and started acting as though he was open to accepting a duel to stake the fate of battle in a one-on-one clash. Officer Bale almost beheaded the dumbass right then and there, but Dale found it amusing. Just to see what kind of bullshit Philip would try, Dale permitted the so-called duel. The bastard smirked upon having his way. He thinks he found a loophole to ensure his safety and claim glory. Without waiting for a proper start, he bum-rushed Dale. Everyone saw his awful running and drawing form in full display. He was really pleased with his tactic. He was patting himself on the back for being so clever. If he can just slice the brat's neck open, he could turn the tide of this lost war. Dale did not even bother lifting a finger. He just let the shadows under his cloak do the heavy lifting. As soon as it touched Philip, the shadows left a burning wound. It was a tiny injury, but it made the spoiled noble roll around the ground like it was the end of the world. One tiny wound was all it took to make him beg for his life. Dale thought he would have some entertainment for a while, but Shitlip was more pathetic than expected. And so, the war, which had been so loud and grand, ended with the laughable screams of the Count's son. Dale returned home to a hero's welcome. They held a parade with all the festivities for young Master Dale's first war. Word about his successful execution of the ultimate encirclement and annihilation formation against the Knight Order of St. Magdalena quickly spread. Most people were enamored by his exploits, but a loud minority thought that the amount of blood spilled in battle was awful. People of the church posited that the gods would have hated all the unnecessary bloodshed. Cardinal Nikolai of the goddess Sistina Church hinted that the child's blade is pointed at the enemy for now, but that might not be the case tomorrow. One day, that viciousness might target its own people. After the long parade, Dale went straight back home. Welcoming him was his little sister, Lise. She jumped straight into his embrace. Little Lise missed her big bro a lot. Uncle Helmet was there to offer proper congratulations on his victorious first battle. Lise led him by the hand, not letting big bro slip away again. Charlotte and Master Cephia quietly watched from the sidelines. As a filial son, it's customary for Dale to pay respects to his parents. As a representative of Noir Tower, he was pumped to formally report his W to the Duke. Duke Saxon gave his son some much-deserved praise for such a splendid job. Sir Bale also got his flowers for guiding the young commander well. Mom, on the other hand, was just relieved that her little boy was finally home. She implored Dale to get some rest after everything he had just gone through. Dale was just glad to be back home. It's been months since he was last back here in the Saxon ducal castle. Nothing beats coming back to a real home. On the flip side, Count Brandenburg was feeling the polar opposite of joy. Instead of a hero's welcome for a victorious army, only 2 crippled knights came back home, and that damned incompetent son of his was nowhere to be seen. They fearfully reported what happened: the defeat of the St. Magdalena Knight Order, the death of Sir Milvas, and the capture of Master Philip. Hesitantly, they also had to explain to the Count that Dale Saxon demanded an enormous ransom for the safety of young Master Philip. Basically, these two suffered a crushing defeat and shamelessly ran away with their lives intact. The Holy Swordsman was not pleased. If there's one thing he hates, it would be filthy deserters. To assuage his anger, Brandenburg ordered the survivors to be dragged to the basement dungeon, where they could beg for the sweet release of death instead. The battle, later dubbed the Black and White Turning Point, was inevitably exaggerated in the people's retellings. After that day, Dale, who showed not a shred of mercy to his enemies, became known as the Black Young Master. By his 11th birthday, his name was already known far and wide. This year, his father wanted to give his dutiful son a special gift. At the official ceremony of his birthday, he will be officially appointed as a Viscount of the Saxon ducal territory. A Viscount is a position that can exercise authority as a lord's representative. With this, his father is essentially giving him free reign equal to the head of the house. With utmost respect, he extended his gratitude to his dad. It may be a bit sudden, but he wants to invoke his right as the new Viscount for something he wishes to do. People are going wild with stories of his cruelty, alleging that he did not allow a single prisoner to live. Some bad actors framed the story where the knights armed with faith in the goddess are mere victims of his inhumane methods. The church is slyly making moves already. In response to that, he wants to ask permission to depart on a pilgrimage to the papal state of Sistina. In that place, he can shoulder the weight of the infamy he had sown in person. Naturally, the Duke was skeptical. He wasn't too bought into his son's idea. Frankly, he can't understand why the kid would want to do that. As far as he's concerned, fear is a tremendous asset that cannot be traded for anything else. Yet Dale means to deny his own infamy to cultivate favor with the church. He believes that the religious faction is worth building a relationship with. Besides, he has some other plans in mind. Like the Godfather, he's going to make them an offer they can't refuse. While at it, he plans to get his hands on the forbidden grimoires inside the church. A few days earlier, Dale was bothered by an uncomfortable feeling in his chest in the middle of his slumber. He dreamt of a skeletal apparition demanding to be remembered. It was the ghastly personification of his old life. It doesn't want to be forgotten. Memento mori, a reminder of death. As someone who's been through that process once, his connection with death is stronger than most. That night, Dale woke up huffing and puffing for air. His head felt like it was being split open. That nightmare just now was akin to the abyss of the mind. It was the darkest scene he saw within his own mind world when he forcefully opened it to form the third circle. The practice of controlling one's inner world and honing it can be considered both the beginning and the end of a mage. Yet here he is, tormented by loneliness and night terrors because of his own demons. One thing is for sure, he's still lacking in many areas. To fully control his mind world, greater power is necessary. Knights have their blades by their side. A great mage is supposed to have a grimoire at their side. Although the Duke doesn't fully understand his reasoning, Dale was given the pass to embark on yet another journey. Dale traveled light alongside Bale. Early on, they passed by the area where the black and white turning point once unfolded. This is the place where the northern regions end, and the central lands begin, the land beyond Duke Saxon's hand. For Baron Parker, who had been defeated by the hands of a young boy, only one choice remained. The men who survived and deserted the war have now resorted to banditry and thieving. Today, those bandits chose the wrong caravan to rob. At first, they tried to invoke Baron Parker's name, intent on extorting some coins disguised as permission. They believe that it's common sense for strangers to pay a toll once they set foot in a noble's territory. Dale cooperated with the bandits. As it happens, he prepared a certain sum to pay the so-called toll. The bandits rejoiced. It's not every day they get such a willing target. Dale tossed a bag of loot, and the thieves quickly opened it up for inspection. Much to their surprise, the bag contained an extremely hefty amount for a simple toll. Since they've been so generous, the bandits let the caravan pass without a fuss. Of course, that was just for show. As soon as they rolled a few meters forward, the bandits quietly pulled out their weapons. A few minutes later, Dale and Bale were stopped by a familiar scene. A new batch of bandits working under Baron Parker's banner smugly introduced themselves. This time, the Baron himself had shown up. Parker repeated the script about crossing noble territory without paying a toll and all that bullshit. Bale insisted that they had already paid the price just a moment ago. He also invoked that collecting a toll more than once in a single territory is illegal. As expected, the greedy bandits played dumb and claimed that they'd not been paid. They swore that they would follow the Empire's laws better than anyone. Instead of playing around, Baron Parker demanded that they hand over everything valuable, or they would experience the blade that survived the famous black and white turning point. They're calling Baron Parker the hero who turned the tide. Hearing such a joke made Dale break character. He laughed his ass off upon hearing such a ridiculous claim. The young lord removed the hood covering his face and swore that he remembered the war very differently. As soon as the Baron saw the face hiding under the hood, a cold sweat ran down his spine. This was his first time seeing young Master Dale since that fateful day. Even though shit just hit the fan, Baron Parker urged his men to calm down. There are only 2 people in the caravan. The bandits have the numerical advantage. Moreover, this is their turf. As long as they do everything correctly, this is a fight that they could win, right? First, the archers took aim and loaded up their arrows. Bale implored the young master to say the word, and he'll go sicko mode. Dale was in agreement that they should end the act here. Baron Parker must have forgotten what happened in that war. He still had the guts to fire at will. His archers were well trained. Their arrows sought to turn the young lord into a pincushion. Protecting his boss, Bale sprang into action and neutralized every single arrow, cutting them all in one slice. Since the young master gave the go signal, he was free to utilize his menacing aura to retaliate. The archers haven't even processed what happened to their arrows when the Aura Knight jumped in to wreak havoc. Bale's blade sliced through one of the archer's arms like a hot knife through butter. Without flinching or blinking, he locked in on the next target. After mowing down the row of archers, Bale turned his attention to the retreating sword bandits. As soon as Baron Parker came into view, the disgraced noble was on the verge of soiling his pants in terror and disbelief. Ultimately, he got on his knees to beg for the young master's forgiveness. He then willingly swore lifelong loyalty just to get out of this deadly bind. Dale hasn't even lifted a finger yet, and the pathetic noble was already pleading for mercy and invoking the name of the goddess. Frankly, the young master doesn't see any real reason to listen to all that praying. Dale passed by countless more robber nobles and bandit knights like this gang. That's the cost of traveling across the lawless central continent. It took them several weeks of changing modes of transport before reaching their destination. By boat, they finally touched down on Dale's next stop. Stretched before them was a city of prosperity and holiness, the papal state of Sistina Puchel, the city of the Holy See. It's an absurd title by all accounts. As far as Duke Saxon knows, his boy came here on a pilgrimage. But in truth, delivering judgment is a better fitting term.